It's that time of the week. Yes, this week's Cult Movie Show, your weekly look at cult movies. Please welcome your hosts, Warren and Velvet.
Yes, it is that time of the week again. Welcome to podcast 43 of the Cult Movie Show with myself, Warren, and with me in the virtual studio, as always, is the amazing Velvet. How are you today, Velvet?
I'm doing quite amazing, excited about the show as usual, because today not only do we have some awesome films and a short film to talk about, we're also having a bit of a little discussion today, aren't we?
Oh, we are, because nice just to break it up a little bit from time to time, and especially to, just so we can sort of put some of our thoughts out there, some of our likes, our dislikes, our interests, and so forth. We thought we might have a little bit of a discussion, didn't we? Which
Yes.
is about, how should we describe this? Best film in category. Would that be, yeah?
And it's totally biased. This has no actual, scholarly merit or any kind of actual spectrum or scale we're using. I think we're doing these on our personal favorites, right?
Exactly right.
Or do you have a certain system?
Oh,
Okay.
no. This is really just movies that, for me, I suppose I would say I keep coming back to all the time in category.
Yeah.
This is, I might list a movie as one of my favourites in category, and it gets a Rotten Tomatoes. Is it Rotten Tomatoes?
Yes.
Sort of score of, 5% or
rotten.
something. But I absolutely love it, so, it's more that it's our personal thoughts, and gives, everybody listening a bit of an insight into what's ticking over in our minds, I suppose, which is going to be pretty crazy considering we do this show. But, I think it'd be a bit of a fun chat. And, of course, the other thing too, Velvet, we mentioned last week, of course, it is Eurovision week. So for all our, European and also our, Australian listeners, then, of course, Eurovision is happening while we're recording. So, when you're listening to this, it will have actually happened, but when you're listening to this, I'll probably be watching it in delay. So anyway, I'm very excited about it this year, even though Australia's going to be bottom of the world, I think, this year. Oh, well, second place last year, that was pretty good, but I think we'll be second bottom this year. But, hey, we qualified, which is pretty good. 16 countries didn't even qualify, so, that's not too bad. But anyway, we're not here to talk about that. We are here to talk about some of our favourites in category. So, Shall we get started, Velvet? Let's just jump on in.
Absolutely. Yes, definitely.
So what category have we got first?
Okay, so I don't want to throw you off, so I'll start with one of the more mainstream categories. How about action? What's your favorite action movie?
Now this was a really hard one for me. Or mind you, quite a lot of them were very hard because it was I started thinking about the Fast and the Furious franchise, because let's face it, they've got everything you could possibly want from an action movie in them, Really good-looking cast, great stunts, even though they're all CGI, but still great stunts, car chases. It's sort of got everything. But then I thought, what about the Bond franchise? I mean, my God, that's amazing. But then I thought, it has to be just one film. And I think right now, and this will probably change in 6 months' time, my favourite action movie is actually The Man from U.N.C.L.E., the remake by Guy Ritchie, The Man from U.N.C.L.E. It is
the recent one.
Yeah,
Okay.
It is really, really good. I love the way just the palette of colours they use makes you feel like you are in the swinging 60s. It is just, it's beautifully shot. Everything is sort of the clothing, just everything about it just screams 1960s. And the action, the stunts, they're fantastic. Great story. because it's obviously the prequel to the TV series. And I think at the moment, it's honestly my number one.
I hear you. No, the one I also picked one that probably a lot of people be like, oh, okay. This is a movie back before, like, it's not even that long ago, actually, but I was in one of those phases where I didn't quite have the Netflix set up, and so I found myself watching the same DVDs over and over, and this was one that I watched a ridiculous amount of times. It is Smoking Aces from 2000.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah.
Such a quirky action film. It's just, it has a really frenetic pace. There's a million characters and so many people get killed. You don't know who's going to get next. Ben Affleck's in it. So you think, oh, Ben Affleck's in it. And he gets killed like randomly, like so unexpectedly. And you're like, whoa. And like, this has a lot of who's who at the time when this movie came out. I mean, and even now, some of these people are still super popular. I mean, it has Ryan Reynolds, Ray Liotta, it has Common, Jeremy Piven. I already said Ben Affleck. It even had, Taraji P. Henson, Alicia Keys. I mean, it just ridiculous. Chris Pine. I mean, seriously, it's just like, you watch this movie and you're like, oh, he's in this. And there's a lot of like character actors. There's even the Australian Joel Edgerton's in the, I mean, but it's just so quirky. And like every time I would watch it, I would see something I didn't notice before. And I love that in a movie. I love a movie that every fucking time I watch it, I see something I didn't notice before, because it has that really, like, just a really quick pace. It's all over the place. There's a million characters, but it doesn't have that problem that a lot of movies have, where if you have too many characters and you don't care about any of them. Like in this movie, you don't really care about all the characters, but you're still surprised to see people get killed. And like, then like this person was originally there for money. Now they're out for revenge. And then like this person's double crossing this one. And then this person never really existed. And
yes.
Every time you watch it, it's just a fun movie. So Smoking Aces from 2006 is currently my favorite action movie.
That's a good choice. The other thing I was thinking about this is, should it be an Arnie film? Because I love Arnie,
yes. But I almost said Last Action Hero.
Yeah, that's really interesting. That was a movie I remember when it first came out, and I thought, oh, this looks appalling. What the hell? Right. But when I watched it, I got it. I got what they were trying to do. Yes. And I fell in love with it. I thought, and it's got some of the actually, I think some of the funniest Arnie lines he's ever done are actually in that movie.
Yes.
Yeah. So, because I love the way too, he plays himself as well as being the character, which is, really,
I love that movie,
which is really kind of cool. All right. What's our next category?
Okay, again, I'll stick with something more mainstream. How about comedy? Got a favorite comedy film?
Yes, well, this is where it's got to be two films for me, because I thought, there's so many movies, and I thought, how do I rate this? And I thought, it's got to be ones that when I saw them actually made me literally laugh out loud. Like, not just think, oh yeah, that was cool or that was good, but actually start crying from laughing so much.
Yes.
And the very first one, it doesn't make me feel this way so much now, but it did when I was a child, and that was The Great Race. With Tony Curtis.
To see that movie.
With Tony Curtis and Jack Lemmon and Peter Falk. Just absolutely hilarious film. Even today, it still makes me laugh a little bit out loud. So it's still pretty good. But the other one, as an adult, which made me, when I first saw this movie, I actually was lying on the floor in tears at one scene. And that's the Mel Brooks film Spaceballs.
Oh God. Yeah, that's a good one.
when they take the spaceship to ludicrous speed. And that is just one of the funniest scenes I think was ever put. I need to
see that again. I haven't seen
funny.
it in so long that honestly, I think so much time has passed that I would have a whole different appreciation from it, because I remember seeing that movie as a kid. And so I'm like, oh, I thought it was funny as a kid and I probably didn't get half the jokes. I'm really going to like it now. So I definitely need to watch that again. Oh my God. Okay, my favorite comedy, and this is actually one of my favorite movies of all time. This is world is dying. You have to get on the planet, on the ship to, Mars or Moon or whatever the colony is. And you can only take 3 DVDs with you. One of them for me would be There's Something About Mary from 1998.
Very good film.
God.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I saw that in the theater 3 times back in the day, so that's one of my, love this movie to this day, and I still love Cameron Diaz, and that's when she was like just, up and coming, Ben Stiller, Matt Dillon, it just the shit they did, and it's gross out humor, which was a rather new genre around that time in the 90s. There weren't a lot of movies like that in the late 90s, and just the whole thing with her having semen in her hair,
yes,
as a hair gel.
I know.
The fucking dog is, jumps out a window, and the rest of the movie, the dog's in a body cast, and it's just.
It is a very funny film, and that scene with Cameron Diaz and the hair gel, shall we just say?
Oh my God, it's iconic.
It's written itself. There were certain scenes that write themselves into history, and that was one of them. Yes. I would say, yeah.
And also, one thing I like about this movie is it has a special character, and you don't see that often in filmmaking, and it's very smartly done. It's not, they don't make, someone who has mental retardation look stupid. Like, he really has the upper hand in this movie.
Yes.
And I love that they did that with this movie. But yeah, There's Something About Mary, my favorite comedy.
No, that's a really good choice, actually, I think.
Thank you.
So what's next? What's our next category?
All right, how about we jump from comedy and go straight to horror?
Oh, to horror. Okay, now, you can go first on this one, because I'm dying to hear what your choice is.
Okay, this was actually a film that was considered to have, revitalized the horror franchise, and I agree. I still love this movie to the day, and now it's got so many tropes in it that are not only rehashed cliches from back then when it came out, but also a lot of films try to emulate now from this movie. It is Scream from Wes Craven.
Ah, Scream. Okay. Yes. No, I can understand that. I can definitely understand that. I went down a slightly different path, I have to admit.
Okay.
And I actually, for me, it's one of the films that we've actually reviewed on this show, and it's John Carpenter's The Thing.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, of course. I've said that's a cinematic masterpiece. I'll just say a slight spoiler. That movie does show up on my list, but in a different category.
Ah, okay. Well, I suppose that's the thing. Many of these, you could sort of say, oh, it's this type of film, but then it could also be this sort of film. You know what I mean? So,
absolutely.
Yeah, but but there's no need for me to talk about The Thing. We reviewed it.
Oh, yeah, we've reviewed that. I mean, I agree. It's a cinematic masterpiece. Whatever category you put it in, it's going to be your favorite something or other.
Yeah, definitely. And I also, as I said in the podcast when we reviewed it, also the third version of The Thing, which is the prequel, watch them together. You won't be disappointed. Because the not the remake, but the prequel, if you watch it afterwards, it explains a lot of the unanswered questions from the original movie. So I actually recommend that you actually watch them as a double feature. Actually makes it a lot more enjoyable, I think.
I think that sounds really fun. I'm going to do that someday.
All right. So what next?
Okay, how about we jump into, I'm not a big rom-com fan at all. So I don't even have rom-com on my list, but I do have romance. So I think we're kind of putting those two together.
Okay, yeah, I think we joined them together, yeah.
Okay, so because actually mine is actually a rom-com now that I look at it. It's Love Actually from 2003.
Yes. This one always comes up, doesn't it? It's like whenever anyone sort of says, what's your favourite rom-com, it's always Love Actually. So there you go. You're in good company there, Velvet.
Definitely. And they're actually doing something that's coming up later this month. It's going to be a Red Nose. What is it? Red Nose Love Actually, which is, I feel bad. I didn't do my homework on this one, but it's a charity, and they've gotten a lot of members. Oh yeah, Red
Nose Day. It's it's a charity. Yeah.
And they've gotten they've gotten a lot of people from the original cast of Love Actually, the ones that are still alive, the ones that are still available, and they're rehashing their roles for some skits that tie into this charity for Red Nose Day. And I'm like, oh, that's really great. That's really cool. So I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Is that part of Britain's, what do they call it, comedy relief?
I think so. Here you go. Let me dig it up for you. It's Red Nose. Okay, so if you go to rednoseday.org, they tell you all about it. And actually, they have a nice little, the cast of Love Actually is back together for a special Red Nose Day reunion. So there's already the promos on the internet, so you can check it out. It's going to be really cool. But so it's going to be Thursday, May 25th. Is Red Nose Day, and that's also here in, I believe, the United States on which channel? I believe NBC in the United States. They're going to be airing this Red Nose Day Actually special with the cast from Love Actually.
I'll be interested to check that out, actually. I'll look forward to that, actually. Because
I'm really excited. They've already got the promo, and these people are straight up rehashing their roles, and it's just like they got Hugh Grant dancing around, and he's still got his, foul-mouthed girlfriend from the original movie. I mean, I just wish Alan Rickman could be there. I mean, they even got Rowan Atkinson that we know as Mr. Bean, but he's also rehashing his role in this. I mean, really, they've got now we know him as Rick on The Walking Dead. He's in it's going to be really cool.
Yeah.
Keira Knightley's in it. Everybody.
I'll be watching that. Yeah, I'll definitely be watching that.
I'm excited.
For me, I think everybody knows now that I have a dark secret, and that is that I do actually like a good rom-com. I actually really enjoy them. I know it's a dark passion of mine, but, I really do enjoy them.
It's a guilty pleasure.
A guilty pleasure. That's exactly right. And I have to admit, I do like especially on a cold, wintry sort of Sunday afternoon, sitting back with a glass of scotch and a good rom-com on the TV. I actually really enjoy that. So, but anyway, but what is my favourite? And I find that so hard to honestly come up with one. But I have to admit, I loved all the rom-coms that Amanda Bynes was in. I thought she was, obviously she had, basically went nuts is really obviously what happened.
Yes, I was just thinking, are we talking about the same nutty? Yes.
Yeah, who obviously, although, obviously
yes.
mental disease or, is obviously a very serious issue, but probably...
Or also just boredom and too much money mixed with mental illness. Mixed with mental illness.
Well, I think that is the thing, isn't it? It's not like, Lindsay Lohan, where it was just, money, fame, drugs, power, just went to her head. Amanda Bynes actually had serious health issues, like mental health issues. So, and then when you mix that in with the fame and everything, it obviously just went out of control. But I thought that she was the up and coming queen of the rom-com. So the body of work that she put out in rom-coms, even though there's only about 4 of them, I think, but I absolutely, if ever an Amanda Bynes movie comes on, I will always watch it. I don't care.
I don't think I've seen any of them.
So for me, I'm actually going to say What a Girl Wants is actually would be my favourite. Yeah, well, that doesn't surprise me, Velvet.
But if it's your favourite, I'm going to have to actually check it out. You might convert me, It's just, I don't know. Maybe I just went through a phase, because like I said, my main complaint about rom-coms is that the female characters are usually stupid. I straight up said they're stupid. I'm just like, have no self-esteem. They think that, they need a man or lesbian partner or whatever their sexuality is, like that. The whole movie revolves around this. I don't know. I just don't like the way female characters are usually portrayed.
They are changing rom-coms now. Quite often now, the dopey, ditzy, get themselves into trouble character all the time now in rom-coms. Yeah, traditionally that's always been the woman, but that's changing now. A lot of them now, men are taking up that role where the women are actually the stronger ones, and the men.
I don't know if I'm going to like that either.
And the men are the dopey, ditzy ones. So they are mixing it up. They are mixing it up. But anyway,
at least they're doing that. It's an equal opportunity employer for these movies.
Yeah. So anyway, that's my choice anyway for this category, which is not generally all that beloved, especially for anyone who probably listens to the Cult Movie Show anyway. So, all right. So what do we got after that? What's next?
All right, let's jump from, let's do the polar opposite again. Let's jump from romance. Let's jump to war. So what's your favorite war genre movie?
Now this is interesting because I think everybody is going to say Saving Private Ryan, But for me, I still think that film actually has it's pretty hard to criticize a film like Saving Private Ryan, but there are some things about it that really sort of piss me off. It still suffers from that age-old thing in Hollywood, which is the Germans can't shoot straight and Americans can. And that's sort of one thing that I sort of found a little bit annoying about it.
So that one's not your favorite.
So it's not my favorite. Although I am saying though, it is probably one of the best production pieces in the category. I actually much prefer Black Hawk Down. I actually think that's actually a much better film because it sort of, there's so much futility. Futility, is that a word? It sort of just shows how futile war is, and people are just dying for absolutely no reason. So, but my favourite is actually a movie from Germany, Das Boot.
Das Boot.
Das Boot, which of course follows a mission on a German U-boat during the Second World War, and for me, just. It's the standard movie is 2.5 hours, let alone if you want to watch the 4-hour or 4.5-hour version.
Oh my God.
Okay. But the thing is that what's amazing is that, for me, is that I believe that it encapsulates what you hear so many war veterans talk about. And that is that war, for a lot of them, is 99% boredom with 1% pure excitement and terror. Do you know what I mean? And this movie, I think, encapsulates that because so much of it is just them stuck on board this stinky, smelly submarine. And then every now and again, the sheer adrenaline and excitement and horror of an actual battle takes place. And so for me, it encapsulates everything that, from what I like if you ever talk to a war veteran, it's like, it sort of encapsulates what they will tell you was like, what they went through anyway. So, yeah.
No, that's a good choice. I have to admit, I need to watch that one again because I've only seen it once, and I saw it at the worst time possible. I saw it when I was learning German, did not yet speak German, and I had to watch it in German with no subtitles. I was bored to fucking tears listening to people hawk loogies for 2.5 hours, which is what German sounds like to a lot of English speakers. It's a very guttural language. And then I hated the ending because everybody, it's like all these people survive all this shit and then a bunch of them get killed.
Yes.
And I was like, oh God, I hate this. But I was too young, didn't speak the language, didn't have a subtitled version at the moment, so I couldn't appreciate it as an art form at the time. I just wasn't there yet mentally, but now I can definitely see that's definitely an anti-war film. It's a very powerful message, very well shot, but I need to see it again because I don't have a very good memory of the actual overall film experience. But no, that's an excellent choice. That always comes up when people talk about war films that actually have a message. And yeah, I fall into that category of I picked it really quick last minute, Saving Private Ryan, because for me that was the first time I saw a war film that I felt really straight up showed you the horror of war. Like, there's it was really brutal at the time. Like I saw it in the theater, people like drowning before they barely even got off the boat to, get onto the fucking shore. And then one guy's arm gets blown off and he walks over and picks up his arm and takes off running. And you're just like, what the fuck? And it's like, I guess I would do that too. Maybe they can reattach it later. Like, just the horror of like straight up war, that opening sequence, even if you don't watch the rest of the movie, just that opening sequence for realism at the time was like, just blew my fucking mind. Like, actually, I ended up seeing it too in Germany as well. I saw it in America and then I saw it in Germany, which was interesting. To always see movies from America where Germans are the bad guy in Germany is a very surreal experience.
Yeah, I was about to say, what was that? What was that like, Velvet? I mean, how did the audience?
That's always very odd, and it's kind of like, let me use the rap analogy. So, some rap music, like the stereotypical gangster rap music, is the most misogynistic shit on the planet. But then you have that female friend that loves all that music.
Yeah,
and you're like, that stuff is so degrading to women. She's like, they ain't calling me the bitch. I ain't the hoe.
Yes.
That's kind of what it's like in the German theater. They're kind of like, well, I'm not a Nazi. That's not me. I didn't do that.
Yeah.
So it's So it's kind of like that. But yeah, but when that movie came out, I remember there was even a news report that somebody had died of a heart attack in the movie theater in Germany because that opening sequence was just too realistic at the time.
Yes,
like, wow.
it is. I have to admit, an incredibly moving scene. That opening
at the time, by today's standards, it's kind of like, yeah.
Well, I
we
suppose
see so much gore now.
Well,
gore now.
Well, the other thing too that we follow HBO would follow through, obviously with Tom Hanks with making or being involved in the making and production of anyway, when we would get what was it, Band of Brothers, and then we got the Pacific HBO series, and we've also had some other quite astounding ones, like was it Generation Kill, I think it is, or Generation War, so we're getting so much of this stuff now, but I have to admit, Saving Private Ryan was a movie that, that opening sequence, I don't think we'd seen anything quite like it before.
Exactly.
In the cinema,
it was intense. It was intense. And if you were in the theater and it was so fucking loud and like your attention is focused on the screen, like you can't look anywhere else because you're surrounded by darkness in the movie theater. And yeah, you were just sucked in. You're like, oh shit.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
And then enter the Hollywood formula, and it's like your heart can slow down now, and you're like, okay, I know I'm safe now. This movie will have a happy ending. So for the most part. So
for the most part.
But that opening sequence, woo! Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh, most definitely. Most definitely. All right, moving on from war. What have we got next?
Okay, you brought up another really good category, found footage.
Yes. Now, there it is. Yes. Now, where did what do you think here? I mean, what is your? Because we're both fans.
I almost feel like we might. I almost feel like we might have picked the same movie. I almost feel like I'm going to say Troll Hunter from Norway.
Wow. It's actually my favorite too. We're in total agreement. It was bound to happen.
Ridiculously well done.
It was
ridiculously well done.
Yeah, it's it's one of those movies that unfortunately, because obviously it is in Norwegian, a lot of people haven't watched or won't watch. And I have seen it both in Norwegian and also in the English dub. And the one thing I can tell you is the English dub doesn't do it justice.
I believe that.
Yeah, it's not a good quality dub, and so it cheapens the movie, but the special effects in it are just amazing, and I love the way it deals. Amazing. And it deals with that idea of ancient culture meets modern culture, Yeah. I totally agree. I mean, I know a lot of people always bring up Blair Witch, but for me, I totally agree. Troll Hunter was magnificent.
Yeah, if you haven't seen Troll Hunter, that's definitely one you got to check out. Make sure you get the Norwegian version, read those English subtitles. It's really a great viewing experience, and it does have that sense of realism, and they really have amazing special effects, which, to be honest, in a lot of found footage films, the special effects are oftentimes lacking.
Yes.
They're relying on jump scares and dark corners, and but this, you see fucking trolls in this movie, and they're amazing.
I mean, I think what people ended up seeing with the trolls was not what they expected, because so many people have grown up with that non-Germanic, non-Scandinavian idea of trolls. These
are not garden gnomes.
No,
these are not garden gnomes.
Yeah, so
and these are not troll dolls with the poofy hair.
That's exactly right.
These are traditional Scandinavian trolls. You got to check it out. It's great. And they even back up some of the biology of the trolls with a pseudoscience in this movie, but it's very well explained, very believable for the universe that this movie takes place in. It's fantastic.
Oh yeah, no,
fantastic.
I totally agree. So what have we got then? Oh, what about okay, we did rom-com, we've done war, we've done comedy, we've done action. What about just general adventure?
There we go. And and we said, let's see, I put that in the fantasy category.
Yeah, so we'll say
adventure.
Adventure slash fantasy. Yeah, adventure slash fantasy.
And we actually reviewed this. Recently, and I love this movie. So I'm going with Clash of the Titans, the original, not the remake.
Ah, okay, good choice. A bit of Harryhausen in there. That's pretty cool. I say thumbs up to that one. For me, it was this got a little bit difficult because there was one movie from my teenage years and one movie from my youth, which I absolutely adored. And one was Hatari from my youth, which I absolutely, I grew up on that film. I must have watched it.
That's an excellent choice.
Yeah, I must have watched it, I don't know, it'd be in the hundreds right now, the times that I've actually watched it. So
yeah, and John Wayne's in that movie. For people who have not seen Hatari, John Wayne is in that movie. That movie's from 1963. Is that right?
I think it's around then. Yeah.
And John Wayne's in that movie, and this is one of the few movies I feel like you get to see him where he's not playing a cowboy. So it's a really unique role for him. And yeah, that's a great one. And it is an adventure because it's not your stereotypical adventure of, traveling the world and looking for the lost treasure. This guy's lifestyle in this movie is an adventure. That's a great choice. That's a good one.
Oh, and we've also got who is it? Is it Red Buttons? Is in it as well.
Yes,
there's also Hardy Kruger is in it, and also quite a number of European actors that that people especially today wouldn't have heard of, but at the time in Europe they were big draw cards. So this was a huge all-star cast, and it's all filmed in location in Africa.
It's a visual feast. It's a cool movie. That's a great adventure.
And it's got some pretty funny bits in it as well, I have to admit.
Yes, it does actually.
It's not so great. But then again, I have to give special mention here to a film, and that would be Sheena. Because
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah, so because let's face it, I had to do that. But if I'm going to say, the best adventure sort of movie in my mind, it had to be Hatari. Sheena is my favorite film of all time, but Hatari, it's just magnificent. So yes.
That's a great one. They're go seek that one out. And also Clash of the Titans. If you haven't seen Clash of the Titans, that one's more your traditional, well, I shouldn't say traditional, but more like we're on a mission to do this, to find that, to make this happen.
Great film. Absolutely great film. And that version, that's the version I like.
Oh, yeah. That's the one you watch. Exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. You brought up another great category, crime. The crime category.
Yes.
So what have you got for us?
Okay, so when we say crime, we're also talking like heist, sort of movie. Anything that's sort of criminally based. And I was a little bit drawn here between two movies, and they're quite old films, actually. And the first was the original Ocean's 11. I sort of thought, all singing, all dancing criminal heist movie, that's kind of really cool. But realistically, it was, for me, so hard to actually top the original Italian Job.
That one, yes, that definitely, if you have to pick one crime movie, that's a good selection. I'm sorry, now I'm getting a little froggy too myself. The weather keeps changing over here, so I think my throat's drying out. So forgive me if I croak now and again.
Oh, you sound fine.
Okay, good. We reviewed the Italian Job, the original. And yeah, like I said, that movie, again, I don't say this often. I believe I also put that movie in the cinematic masterpiece category because seriously, that's never needs to be remade. Amazing the way it is. If you haven't seen it, go see it. Michael Caine's amazing in it. It's funny. It's exciting. But actually for my crime, this is a movie a lot of people can't stand, and I love it. This is literally one of my favorite movies of all time. So this is up there with There's Something About Mary. That's again, I'm up to I've got my 3 DVDs that I can take to the fucking Mars colony. One of them is going to be There's Something About Mary. The next one's going to be Natural Born Killers.
Yeah, I can understand. Yep. Yep.
A lot of people don't like this movie. I love this movie. I think it's great acting with Juliette Lewis and Woody Harrelson. They do that great kind of redneck, down on their luck, abused childhood type thing. Merciless killers, but they love each other. They'll kill for each other. But again, it has that whole thing that I love in a film. Every time I watch it, I see something I didn't notice before because the editing style on this is ridiculous. Like jump cuts like crazy, random stuff in the background, sound effects, music. It's really frenetically paced, really crazy. And for me, it's more like it's just a visual experience. It's really like abstract art telling a simple story of just crazy people killing people.
Yes.
But I love it. And that's my favorite crime movie.
Good choice. Good choice. All right, we're still working our way through the list. So what about next?
Yes.
What about sci-fi?
Oh shit! Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I think I forgot to mention a category to you, but I'll bring it up at the end.
Oh, okay. Oh, no. That's okay. We'll do.
I'll bring it up at the end in case you don't have one for it. So I'll put a little star next to that, so I remember to not bring it up before the end.
All
okay.
Right.
Sorry
okay.
about that.
No. That's
sorry.
okay.
So let's say, let's jump into sci-fi. How about sci-fi?
Now, okay. I'll just start this one. There are so many. And so many of the sci-fis too cross the border between sci-fi and horror,
Yes, absolutely.
But I'm actually going to not actually here say a particular movie. I'm going to say a franchise of movies. And to be honest with you, it's the Star Trek franchise.
Good one.
Whenever a new Star Trek movie comes out, I have got to watch it. And
they've gotten really good. I love the way they've rebooted the franchise. And
yes.
I think they've really done it justice. Like, I really love the actors they've selected, the storylines, the special effects. They've really done it justice. And it has a very serious vein that's not hokey. Like, with the older ones, it has a little bit of that camp to it, and it's beloved in cult because of that. But I love how they've matured this franchise and really done it justice. Yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah.
So for my... Excuse me, over here. Again, I don't know why my throat's getting dry all of a sudden. Excuse me. Sip of water. Okay. So, sorry about that. Okay, so sci-fi for me, this is where I had the one where I couldn't pick just one. I did pick two films. One of them you already mentioned in a different category. I put The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing in sci-fi.
Okay, in sci-fi, yep.
We've said enough about it. I won't say anything more. But the other film, this one's relatively recent. This just came out a few years ago. This one is Ex Machina. Have you had a chance to see this one, Warren?
I have. I know it, but I haven't seen it.
Okay. This is a great story about, making basically a robot, android. And what happens when that robot develops free will? It's sentient. It wants to be independent. It's an amazing story, and it's something that people are increasingly starting to worry about. What happens when AI, artificial intelligence, becomes sentient and wants free will? And this movie has an interesting take on that and amazing visual effects. So if you haven't seen Ex Machina, it's a relatively recent release, just a couple years old. Check that one out when you're in the mood for something for sci-fi.
And I think that's readily available on Netflix, isn't it? I think.
I believe so. Yes, it is.
Sure,
yes,
it keeps popping up on my to-watch list on Netflix.
Make sure you add it to your queue. Definitely add it to your queue. Definitely.
All right. What's the next category then?
All right. Let's see. Let's jump into how about? Do you want to do documentary?
Yeah, well, I guess. Well, we can do this, and I'll be honest with you. I didn't even think about this when I was and I really don't have a favourite. Most of the documentaries that I love tend to be not movies, like not ones that you would see at the cinema. They've been made for television or or such things. So I really don't have a personal, like, movie-based, sort of documentary, to be truthful. But I would have hundreds of ones that I've loved, especially if I'm really interested, in a topic. I mean, for instance, I'll mention this. It's not really a movie, and we're going to get into this a little bit later, but I'm going to throw it in here now because I don't know what else to say. And that is Cosmos. Both the original with Carl Sagden and, of course, the remake. It was, yeah. But as far as an actual doco movie, I don't really have one. I mean, what's yours?
I have two. I have actually two for this category. They're both relatively recent, both from the 2000 teens. And the first one was both of these have been in theaters in the United States. So the first one came out in 2013, and I'm so glad I did not see it in the theater, because a friend of mine was like, hey, have you seen this documentary? You got to watch this documentary. It's on Netflix. So I watched it on Netflix. Yeah, you spend about the entire thing, or at least I spend about the entire thing crying. But the reason I like this documentary is because it taught me something I never thought of and didn't realize. I love animals, love sea creatures. This documentary is called Blackfish. And it talks about how the franchises... Yes. Are you familiar with this?
Yes, I am.
The SeaWorld franchise, the way they kidnap, marine life from their mothers and raise them in captivity, and then they go crazy and kill, like, the trainers. And this sounds like a horror movie, but this is real life. And I'm just like, wow, I will not go to those fucking places anymore now that I realize that, because I've been to them before and it just never occurred to me. But yeah, you learn something awful and it changes your life, or it might not. Maybe you don't care, but I do. So, and the other one, this one is recent. This just came out last year, and this one I liked because, again, true story. It's a documentary, and the fucking story, it's true, and it blew my mind. The Lovers and the Despo. This was the husband and wife filmmaker team. Actually, one was a director and one was an actress. They got kidnapped by Kim Jong-il, the leader of North Korea, and they were held prisoner.
Yes.
They were held prisoner and forced to make movies. Again, people, this is a true story, and this documentary just blew my mind because they have the actual interviews and footage and, stuff with one of the people that got kidnapped. The other guy has since passed away, so they couldn't interview him for the film. But I'm just like, wow. People get kidnapped all the time, but it's not often that you're a famous celebrity in your country and you get kidnapped by a dictator of another and forced to make movies. It's just so...
Yes, I've got this on my to-watch list as well. This one's spooled up.
Watch it.
It's spooled up.
You need to watch it.
Yeah, I've got this one spooled up as well in the list. There's so many in my to-watch list.
Oh,
but
I think I have like 200 or 300. I know. It's even if I would literally have to watch one at least every day. To get through the list, but then you keep adding to the list.
but actually, just after you saying that, actually, it suddenly just did make me think there is one movie documentary I did say that actually really quite shocked me. I must admit. Mm-hmm. So I will give it a mention, and that was actually Bowling for Columbine.
Oh, the gun culture in the United States.
Because
that's a good one.
coming from a country, being born in a country where there's not an obsession with firearms and where people don't have firearms, people just don't have them. It was so amazing to watch. I mean, in saying that, probably half of my American friends own guns, so I'm quite used to it. It doesn't bother me. But watching it was, and I know it has an extreme bias. I mean, all documentaries do have a bias. That's what they are, because they're trying to, show a message. But it really, really put me back in my seat and just sort of went, wow. It did sort of like, yeah, so...
Well, didn't you just want to go open up a bank account so you could get the free rifle?
Get the free rifle with that blew my mind. Of all the things you're going to give somebody in a bank, you're going to give them a weapon.
They evidently have a really strong hunting culture in that area where, like, guns is just like toothbrushes, you know what I mean? It's just like...
I know.
So that's evidently not everywhere in the United States. That was very specific.
Oh, and of course, I mean...
Yeah, that blew my mind, too. Like, wow.
And the other thing, too, is that Michael Moore was going to find the most extreme cases he possibly could, because...
he did.
Sort of thing. Because the whole point is you're probably going to 50 or even, probably 70% of American homes where there is a gun, and the gun is probably locked away. It's quite safe. Do you know what I mean? But Michael Moore is not going to walk into a household like that. He's going to walk into one that has 25 assault rifles just sitting around the living room. So that's the whole thing. It's a documentary. It's going to have a bias. So, but it did quite shock me, I must admit. At the time.
No, totally, absolutely.
Okay, well, moving on from documentary, then, what about mockumentary?
Ta-da! I think that's always a fun category.
Yeah. Do you have a favourite in this, Velvet?
I do have one. My favourite mockumentary would have to be This Is Spinal Tap.
Oh, my God. Ka-ching, we click again. All right, so we've got 2 so far. We've clicked on 2. Yeah, I agree.
Oh, you picked that one too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice.
Absolutely.
Now we definitely have to review that soon.
I'm sort of surprised we haven't done it yet, but there are.
I know.
But there are so many others too. Like Best in Show or Mighty Wind. I mean, there are some fantastic, mockumentaries out there. And I must admit, this is actually a type of cinema where America excels. I really must say that. America does the mockumentary better than anyone. They really do it well. But This Is Spinal Tap. Absolutely fantastic.
And that's also one, if you have not seen This Is Spinal Tap, or if you have seen This Is Spinal Tap, make sure you get one of those special edition DVDs with the commentary, because they do have the cast members doing commentary in character for This Is Spinal Tap. So definitely worth checking out if you've not done that.
Oh, without doubt, absolutely hilarious movie. I love the way they have to keep getting new drummers all the time because they keep self-imploding
what
on stage.
To the last one?
I know.
He spontaneously combusted.
Oh.
And I love stories that they claim that when this movie first came out, there were many people that first off saw it, and it was like they didn't get the whole mockumentary thing. They thought it was a real documentary. They thought Spinal Tap was a real band.
Yes.
And then supposedly Eddie Van Halen from Yes, Van Halen, the guitarist, supposedly when he saw Spinal Tap, he didn't get why it was funny, because he was like, what, this stuff happens all the time. You get lost backstage. You have to replace drummers. And like, to him, it was like a documentary.
And the other thing, too, is that if you've ever heard or if anyone's ever said to you, it goes to 11. It goes to 11. Okay, that's where that line comes from. It's from this film. It's from this film.
Yes.
Where he has the amp that doesn't just go to 10, it goes to 11. Fantastic film.
That.
Very funny. Very
nice.
Very, very funny.
Cool.
All right. What about sport?
Oh, okay. This one, I went not the traditional route on this one. This one was more kind of obviously it's a movie about sports, about American football. I think you kind of knew my pick would be American football something.
Yeah.
But this is more the behind the scenes. This isn't really like all about the game. This is Any Given Sunday with Al Pacino, Jamie Foxx, and Cameron Diaz, among others. And I've always liked this movie because it was the whole thing about, it's not even about football. It's about people trying to keep their lives together so that they can do these high profile jobs and make that money.
Good choice.
Any Given Sunday.
I was actually going to go with another American football film, The Replacements. Which is
my goodness,
with Keanu Reeves. But I think it's hilarious. But I changed my mind, Velvet. I changed my mind, and I've actually gone from an Australian film, which not very many people will have seen outside of Australia, and that is called The Club, and it's about a full year, in other words, a season from day one to the grand final, following an Australian football team. And what's really great about it is many of the actors in the football team were real members of that football team.
Wow.
But what it does is it deals with the whole idea about the politics and the money behind the club and the infighting and who will be sacked, who will be hired, trying to have control of the club, who is the most powerful person. And it was originally a stage play that was then turned into a movie. And it's one I reckon we should actually maybe look at doing on this show. Yeah, The Club.
Definitely.
from Australia.
That's cool.
So
that sounds cool.
So what else? Have we got any others? I'm sure we've got a couple that we haven't.
Oh yeah, we got a
said
couple.
Yet.
We got quite a few. So I'll start speeding my commentary up. All right. How about a musical? Any favorite musicals?
Well, as a child, it was always Camelot. I loved Camelot. I
Nice.
just thought it was so sort of good. But more recently, as I grew older, it's actually a film that we've done here. It's Absolute Beginners. I think that is an amazing film.
That is nice.
And it brought the musical into a real modern concept. It wasn't just the Broadway show which had been filmed, or the West End show which had been filmed. This was an actual musical made as a movie, not a stage show turned into a movie. So
love it.
Yeah, Absolute Beginners.
Love it. And I love David Bowie in that movie.
The musical he was great, yeah.
The musical I picked is not the, nonstop song. It's more dialogue song. And I think you already know this, actually, because the first time I ever came on the Cult Movie Show, we reviewed this because it was my favorite. My favorite musical, The Phantom of the Paradise.
Of course. It was this movie is actually close to my heart too, Velvet, because if not for this movie, you and I would never have met.
Right, exactly. See, that's movies bringing people together.
That's exactly right. It was because of this movie that you and I actually met. So, it's actually kind of special to me, I must admit. Yeah,
absolutely. Now I have another wonderful memory attached to it as well.
Yes, I mean when a movie creates a friendship, that's kind of cool. That's
absolutely
pretty cool. I think. Yeah, that is pretty cool.
Totally cool.
It's also a great film. It's a great film.
Yes. Oh, it is such a time capsule 70s film, so not everybody will be able to stomach that. They might just think it looks too annoying. If you don't like musicals, I have a family member that cannot stand musicals at all. Like, anytime I'm like, oh, hey, have you seen this movie? And once I get to the part where I go, it's a musical, they're like, don't even tell me.
Yes.
They don't even want to know. But no, I love this movie, especially because this one's a rock musical, those are always fun. So if you like Tommy, if you like Jesus Christ Superstar, if you like those more rockin' type musicals, this one's the most rockinest of them all. So check it out.
No, definitely, absolutely, it's a good one. So what else?
Right, international cinema. So for you and me, that's most likely films that are non-English speaking. For me, that's non-American. For you, that's non-Australian. So got an international film that you'd like to talk about?
Well, I've already mentioned one, which of course was Das Boot. It was two. We also mentioned Troll Hunter. They're obviously, movies which I love, which, one being Norwegian, Troll Hunter, Das Boot, obviously being German. But there is another one, which I really fell in love with when I went to see it at the cinema. And that is Subway from France. Which is
I haven't seen this.
Which is actually kind of a heist movie, if you like, and it's all set in the Paris subways. The underground tunnels, which Paris is famous for. And it deals with that underground culture. All the homeless people living underground underneath Paris, but it's also a heist film at the same time, and it starts off with one of the coolest car chases you will ever see, with this Mercedes chasing a little Peugeot 205. And if you're a car person, especially a French-loving car person, you'll know all about the 205 GTI. It's a very iconic car. And this little hot hatch being chased through the streets of Paris by this Mercedes is it's brilliant. And it's all done to music, because we hear the soundtrack he's playing through his cassette player. Yeah.
Oh, wow. That sounds really cool.
Dates it a bit. He's not a cassette player, but it's really, really a great film. So loved it.
That sounds really cool. Okay. I picked an international one. Like you said, we've already mentioned a couple of films that for us could be considered international, but I wanted to have this category just so I could slide one more in. For me, it's going to be Let the Right One In. This is a Swedish horror film. And I guess you could say it's about a vampire, but it's a very non-traditional take on it. And I've seen this several times. I was obsessed with it after I saw it. You will see it in Swedish language with English subtitles, most likely. It's easy to find. It's usually on Netflix. They did remake it in the United States. It's one of those many times where I can say, skip the remake, watch the original, let the right one in. But yeah, love it.
Okay. I haven't seen
movie.
that, so I'm going to have to check that one out.
Oh, goody. Okay, we'll review it then because, yeah, I love this. Okay, got a thriller for me? Something exciting or mystery, borderline horror, but it's not quite horror. Action, not quite action. Thriller.
You know, I really don't, to be honest with you. That sort of thriller mystery, it's, for me, there's just so many of them. I just don't know if I can actually sort of really find a favorite. Do you have one?
I do, actually. This is another Swedish film, and this one took the world by storm, actually. Again, remade in America. Skip the remake. It was a nice attempt, but seriously, if you're going to watch it, watch the Swedish, and watch the Swedish trilogy. In fact, yes, fucking trilogy, based on the book.
I know what you're going to say.
The girl with the dragon tattoo.
And
yes, the girl with the dragon tattoo.
And do you know what? Just as you were about to say that, I suddenly thought to myself, why the fuck did I not think of that? I love that trilogy.
But yeah, if you need a thriller, definitely the girl with the dragon tattoo.
but we must say you've got to watch the Swedish one.
I agree. Yes,
not
absolutely.
The American. The American one doesn't do the story justice. It just doesn't.
And it ties it up. It ends the trilogy. I mean, it doesn't. It didn't really leave room open for a continuation. It just like one off. That's it.
Yeah. So I know, absolutely, totally agree with you. All right, just very quickly, because we should move on to some reviews. But what about WTF? A movie that's just so crazy.
Okay, well, you know what? There's two movies that I could put in this category. I'm going to put two movies in this category right quick. WTF. They're both from Japan.
Yes.
The first one is Weather Woman. We've reviewed on the show. Next one's going to be Tetsuo the Iron Man. I love both of these movies, but they are so what the fuck.
Without
Japan
doubt.
Cinema.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I can wrap this up really quickly because my choice is also Weather Woman.
Nice. But they're both worth checking out. Weather Woman, you're going to check out. It's what the fuck in a funny way.
Yeah.
Tetsuo the Iron Man is what the fuck in a what the fuck way. It's just It's so weird and so crazy, and I love it. Warren couldn't stand it.
I found it a bit difficult to watch, to be honest. It's an amazing story, but Jesus, it was hard to watch. But hey.
Yeah, it's intense, and it's only not even an hour long. It's just such an assault on the senses from a visual and audio perspective. Yeah, it's just.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, a drama.
A
really
drama.
Quick.
Okay, for me, there was a foreign language film actually called Joint Security Area from South Korea, which I've actually seen numerous times, and I really like that. But for me personally, the king of them all, the king, just wait, is a movie called King Rat. It's a
I have heard of this. I've not seen it.
It's taken from a book. It's set in Changi Prison.
I know. This wasn't... Okay, never mind. I'm going to let you talk. Sorry. My brain's
that's right.
off while you're talking.
It was, it's in black and white. It's set in the prison camp in Singapore, the famous Changi Prison, after the Japanese captured Singapore and, took, hundreds of thousands of British and Commonwealth soldiers prisoner. And it's just about their survival within the prison camp. But it's what's amazing about it is, unlike so many prison movies where it's generally always, especially prisoner of war movies, it's always about them trying to escape. That's right. Mm-hmm. That's always whether it be The Great Escape, whether it be, Stalag 17, all these movies, it's always about them trying to escape. But the thing that's amazing about King Rat, It's not about that, because there is no escape. How do you escape from Changi? Where are you going to go to, right? But what's so amazing about it, it's about how they survive. It's about all the cons they come up with, the way they try to get money to pay off guards, to try to buy food, and also just some of the horrific things that happen to them when they're there. But there's also some of the amazingly funny, light-hearted things that happen to them when they're there. And it's just, it's an amazing, absolutely amazing film. I cannot recommend it highly enough. King Rat.
Okay, I'm going to have to check that out, definitely. Okay, my favorite drama, and this is actually my third DVD, moving to the Mars Colony selection. So There's Something About Mary, we got Natural Born Killers, and to round off my only allowed 3 DVDs trilogy, I'm going to say Sid and Nancy. Yes, the 80s film about Sid Vicious and Nancy Spungen. I love the visuals. I love the music. It's just one of those movies I've seen many times over. It's one of Gary Oldman's finest performances. And for the longest time, that was the only time that the English actor actually portrayed an English character in a film for the longest time, up until recently. He finally did a movie where he did another English character. But I was like, yeah, Sid and Nancy, if you've not seen it, Love Kills, go check it out. I love it.
Wasn't there a bit of controversy about the ending of that movie? That it's like,
of course. Well, there's still controversy about that to this day. So, yeah, check it out. I'm not saying it's historically accurate, because honestly, nobody knows for 100% sure.
Well, there were only two people in the room, weren't there? So, I mean, and one's dead.
That's not true, though. They're claiming that. Well, there's a lot of theories now, but there's been some stuff that came out that there was basically, they lived in a hotel that was full of drug addicts and criminals. And so basically they're saying it could be that they both got high and this guy came in and tried to rob them of all their money, because Sid Vicious had just gotten paid for doing My Way. That was his punk version of Frank Sinatra's My Way.
Which is a great song, I have to admit.
It's a great song. Really fun. Really, great video of him killing everybody. It's awesome. But he'd gotten paid in cash. I mean, he was carrying cash around, fat stacks, and they got robbed and she got murdered. So, but a lot of people think Sid did it, and a lot of people think it was whoever robbed them of their money. So, we'll never know. They're both dead now.
That's right. Wasn't one of the theories that basically he was so high that he accidentally stabbed her and didn't realize he'd done it? And actually, it was actually a case of manslaughter, that he killed her unknowingly.
That's a theory, but again, he didn't even stand trial because he ended up ODing on heroin. So, like I said, we'll never know.
Yeah, so who knows?
We'll never know.
Who knows?
It's a shame. So, even the way the movie ends, like, it has that whole obscure ending of kind of like, they're both dead, basically.
Yes, that's right.
But I love this movie. It's not an uplifting movie at all, but it's just got so many crazy visuals, and it's got the Sex Pistols music, and it's not historically accurate. But I love it. It's entertaining. I love it. One of my favorites. Okay.
All right. Well, another quick category. This is because this is something that we've talked about. We're going to start to look at doing on the show, and that is TV shows.
Oh yeah,
rather than movies as such. But a TV show for you, which is just your favorite of all time.
Okay, if I had to choose just one, it's going to be Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
I had a feeling that would be the case. I had a strange feeling.
But I got a couple others I'll just say really quick. Angel, which is the spinoff I actually really love. Psych, which was about a psychic detective, but it's funny as hell. And Monk, which was about a basically obsessive compulsive detective, which is funny that I like both of those shows a lot. And they all kind of fall in that category. But yeah, I got 2 supernatural and 2 detectives.
Well, for me, there's so much amazing stuff coming out on places like HBO and stuff at the moment that, I mean, they're all amazing. You know, these historical dramas that they're making, you know, HBO are making at the moment or have been making for the last 10 years. They're just amazing. So there's obviously it's so hard to pick, but if I have to think of one that has stayed with me my entire life and I am still addicted to it, there's only one choice, and it's Doctor Who. It has to be Doctor Who. I've been
Yes.
watching that since I was a young child. And I'm still watching it now. So, you know, that's the thing. I've never lost interest. Even when it got into in the original series of the show, when its ratings started to drop terribly, I was still one of those fans hanging on watching it.
Yeah, it has been very enduring legacy. Yeah, Doctor Who's amazing too. I love that one too, and I also like the spin-off they did with Torchwood. Where
there's been a couple of spin-offs. Yeah, Torchwood.
Yes, they're having their.
There was also Sarah Jane Adventures as well, which of course, unfortunately, Elizabeth Sladen has passed on now. So I think there were 3 seasons of Sarah Jane Adventures. They tried a spin-off back in the 80s of K9 and Friends, which I didn't really go anywhere.
I like the idea, but I have a feeling that probably didn't work out too well.
No, there was a one-off pilot, I think. But Torchwood as well. I mean, I loved Torchwood. I thought that was very good.
Oh my God, that one season finale. I'm not going to ruin it for everybody. I'm just going to say this. The aliens want children. And when you find out why they want the children, it blew my fucking mind. It was so shocking. Oh my God.
I think we can say it. I don't think it's I mean, it's,
oh my God. I couldn't believe it.
It's 5 years. Mind. I mean, that's season 3 of Torchwood. And the whole story about the Earth, finally makes official contact with aliens, which is okay. And the amazing thing about it is these aliens are not trying to conquer the world. They're not trying to they're drug dealers. That's
God.
They're just
not only were
drug dealers.
They were straight up fucking addicted to their own stash. That was that was like when they do the reveal of why they want children from Earth, or they're going to like basically blow up the fucking Earth unless we give them a certain amount of children. And they're like, "Why do you want the children?" And they're like, "The hit." And you're like, "What?" And they're like, the children make chemicals. They make us feel good. And you're like, oh my God, they're getting high off of human growth hormones.
But it was such an amazing idea. I don't think it's ever been done before. The idea that the invading aliens were just criminal thugs. That's all they were. It was really quite astounding. Actually, really quite astounding.
Like I'm getting chills talking about it right now. I mean, like it's that shocking. I'm just like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Like I think my chin hit the floor when it got to that part of the show.
That's the other thing too, is that if people, you know, there's a lot of people out there who have everyone's heard of Doctor Who, but a lot of people who haven't watched it or don't watch it, they don't, you know. But the thing is that I get that, because it's kind of like peace, love, and harmony. You know, like the Doctor never carries a weapon. The Doctor, you know, the Doctor's a pacifist at heart, even though he gets caught up in all these intergalactic wars all the time.
Yeah.
But he's a pacifist, right? But the difference with Torchwood, where especially for American audiences, why I think if you haven't seen it, give it a try, is that it's Doctor Who, but it's violent Doctor Who. This is Doctor Who for adults,
and it has a bisexuality theme, not even just like homosexuality, bisexuality theme, which is still huge in the United States. You know, I hate to say that, but I mean, like, the shit's still shocking over here.
Yeah.
Whenever they have anything televised, like, even though they're trying to mainstream it and be like, but you know, there's, you know, I'm from that generation where I mean, I don't give a fuck, but a lot of people that are my friends, family, they just still cannot stomach the whole bisexual sexuality, you know, homosexuality thing. They just can't accept that reality. And I'm just like, well, whether you like it or not, it exists.
Well, it's totally legal now in most Western countries, you know? So I mean,
right. And in Torchwood, your main character is straight up bisexual. So in some, you know, episodes he's with a girl, and in some episodes he's naked with a guy, and you're just like, oh. Okay.
Yeah.
We're doing that.
Well, that's of course, because it was of course written by Russell T Davies, who was the one who also brought back Doctor Who after the years that had been off air.
And he's an amazing writer. Anytime I would see an episode that said written by Russell T Davies, I knew that episode was going to blow my fucking mind.
Yeah, no, most definitely. All right, are there any categories that we've left out?
Okay, real fast. Okay, for me, real fast. Classic. Classic film, Metropolis, 1927. Cult film. Okay, this is the only one I'm not being biased on. All these others are my favorites. They're shit I like. This one, I'm saying straight up cult film. This is the Plan 9 from from outer space of our generation because of the cultural impact it's had in the short amount of time it has been on celluloid. Or actually, it's not even on celluloid nowadays. Digital, I guess. The Room. There have been numerous spoofs. People reference the fuck out of this. People say this movie is as bad as The Room. And also, 2 movies have been made about this movie this year. One is a straight-up documentary, and the other one is a slightly fictitious biopic that has Tommy Wiseau, doing a cameo in the movie, and he's being played by James Franco. So, The Room. I mean, that's cult film straight up. And the category I forgot to mention to you, but we were just talking about kind of, is gay and lesbian. Brokeback Mountain with Heath Ledger.
Yes. Okay. Well, I suppose I'll just one that I'll mention, and I totally agree with you with Cult. The Room. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree. But in regards to classic, I'm just going to put up a different one, and that is coming up with a few German films this podcast, and that is Nosferatu.
Oh, that's a good one.
The original vampire movie.
Outrageously iconic.
Yeah.
Iconic.
Iconic. And that, if you think about that, was made in the 1920s, I think.
Yeah.
Silent film from Germany, which of course worked so well. Doesn't matter about language, it's silent. Well, actually, that's very true. Apparently, when talkies came in, made it much harder for Hollywood to sell movies internationally because they now were all speaking. Yeah. So, but no, Nosferatu, that just Count Dracula, the makeup. For the that must have scared the shit out of people at the cinema. At the time.
I think at the time too, people were claiming he was a real vampire. They're like, no, this isn't an actor, that's an actual vampire.
Yes.
And there's actually a movie, Shadow of the Vampire. It has John Malkovich, Willem Dafoe, Udo Kier in it, in which they do that premise where this film team goes to fucking Transylvania or Hungary somewhere, and they actually find a vampire, and they film Nosferatu with this guy. And as payment, they let him have one of the women on the set of the film.
Oh God. Oh my God.
And it's so weird because you can tell they're trying to play the film straight, but then there's some obviously comedic moments. I think they're not really sure what they were trying to do with it. And the vampire, the Nosferatu, is actually played by Willem Dafoe. And I think also what makes Shadow of the Vampire funny is that it's in color, which is even weirder. It's just, it's a very strange, very odd movie.
Yes. So I think that's it. That's our thoughts on best in category.
We may have missed a few categories, but we'll be here forever if we keep going.
Yeah. I think we've got to move on to a couple of reviews. So, but anyway, because a few weeks ago we did, movies that should, what was it? Worst movies ever. I think we came up with. So we thought, seeing we did worst movies ever, we thought, what about some of our favourites in category? What do we actually like to watch? So there you go. That gives you a bit of an insight into us.
Ta-da!
Excellent. All right, we'll just take a quick break and we'll be right back with one of my favourite segments.
It's time to get excited, short film fans. It's mini movie review time.
It most definitely is. And what have you found for us this week, Velvet?
All right, I found a YouTuber that I'm actually subscribed to, and I love to watch his videos. He's a very young filmmaker in Texas, and he recently uploaded a short film that he made. He usually does film reviews and stuff, so he put up together a short film, uploaded it to his channel, and I'm like, oh, gotta check this out. So this is directed and written by Nyx Fears, so NYX Fears, and the story is called Black Mass, and this is an interesting one. There's definitely a religious theme, but it also tackles the I guess internal conflict of gender identity. So,
Yes.
as usual, can't say too much about the short film because I don't want to give it away. It runs just a little over 12 minutes. Right when you start watching it, it gives you a warning that there are flashing images and stroboscopic sequences. So for anybody that's sensitive to that, be forewarned or just avoid this one. This one, I really wasn't sure what to expect going into it. I thought it was going to be like straight up horror. It does have horror elements, but it's not scary. Again, it has just this really strong leaning on mainstream religion, and then I guess you could say an alternative religion.
Yes. I've got my theories on this, yeah.
Okay, as well as gender identity. So, what do you think of this short?
I really quite liked it because our main character, if you like, is a transgender person. And I suppose you've got that idea that hardline accepted religions, if you like. In this case, they use Christianity. Of course, he's there sort of saying, well, you're wrong. You've got to change. This isn't normal, sort of thing. But then our character somehow stumbles across a satanic mass. And, or at least what I think is meant to be a satanic mass. I don't really go to them, so I don't really know. And where
that's what you do in your free time.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So he meets up with these Satanists, and then so we've got this sort of concept where we've got this, what are they? Not telemarketers, but these, tele priests. Televangelists, all right. So, they're screaming. I know, yeah. It's almost the same thing, isn't it? I mean, really. It's almost like, send money now if you want God to love you. Yeah, I'm sure
exactly.
That's what, so we can buy the latest Rolls-Royce Corniche. Send money now.
God wants us to be rich, not you, us.
That's exactly right. So anyway, we've got this guy sort of screaming, through the television, that the apocalypse is coming. You have to change if you embrace, God and and all this sort of thing, and you must change. But then we've got this when our character then meets up with the Satanic Church, because of course they have a real Satanists. I'm not talking about the ones from Hollywood. I mean the real ones. Their religious belief is not a worship in a god. It's actually a worship in yourself. You are your own god. So they make that statement where they say, you will worship yourself. And then there's that idea that comes from the television, which is you must change. And our character sort of says, why? And so it's a really interesting little film, but I'm not, one thing I did like about it is the Satanists were not child murdering friggin', all that sort of stuff. There's still all the theatre, because all religions, and it includes Satanism, still has all its pageantry, its ceremonies, just like if you go to a church if you're a Catholic for mass or for whatever, it's no different. If you're Satanist, you go to somebody's house and they still have an altar and you still do all these rituals and stuff. So they all have their rituals and stuff. But the thing I liked about it is that the Satanists in this were like the way Satanists sort of are, they're not violent, nasty, horrible people. They're just people who worship their own well-being, not a god sort of thing. But I'm still not 100% sure exactly what the message was. I'm still a little bit confused. I mean,
I have to admit, I feel the same way. I feel like this also may just be open for interpretation. This is definitely, for me, more visually stylistic. It's more of a visual experience as opposed to a straight line narrative. So it might just be what you get out of it. Or also it may just require multiple viewings, and I've only had a chance to watch it once.
Yes.
That might be part of it too. I did like that. I was honestly a little surprised that there's some upper body nudity in this one. Not that that's a deal breaker for us at all. We love boobs.
Oh, we love them, yeah.
Just a heads up, this short film does have boobs in it. A lot of it, actually.
Yes.
And so, but don't let that distract you away from the story. But also that's about, hedonism aspect of Satanism, enjoying your life, being comfortable in your own skin. And I mean, that goes not just to sexuality, but gender identity, I suppose. But yeah, I thought it was interesting. It was that very slight parallel where at the beginning they have the whole televangelist on TV saying, the apocalypse is coming, end days are near. And then when our, character, our main protagonist, stumbles across the black mass, they're saying the same thing.
Yes.
So it's like, end days are near. And it's like, I guess that applies to all religions. And what are you going to do about it? Are you going to worship yourself? Or are you going to follow a set of rules that you don't really fit into, that make you lie about who you are? I mean, there's a lot that can be said about this. It really does get you thinking.
Oh, it definitely does. I mean, one thing for me too is that I know a little bit about Satanism, as in the actual real religion of Satanism. As I said, not the Hollywood, stuff. And it's
not
actually
murdering babies and drinking goat's blood.
and the religion of Satanism is actually quite a healthy religion. It teaches people to love themselves. It's not an evil religion at all. This whole idea of Satan, that's a Christian idea. Satanists don't believe in the devil because they believe there are no such thing as gods. Satanism comes about from the term antichrist, which means anti-Christian. It doesn't actually mean antichrist as in the devil. And it's unfortunately one of these things that a lot of people might say that Satanists were the worst marketers in human history in the way that their religion was marketed. Because if you actually read, the Satanic Bible that they have, it's nothing. I mean, they're quite normal, everyday people, So it's and there's no worshipping the devil and all this sort of bullshit. It's about love and respect of your own personality, your own success. The one thing that I don't like about Satanism, though, is that there's no concept of self-sacrifice. So, like, for instance, a Satanist, technically, according to their faith, would not, throw themselves in front of a car to save a child.
Right, I've heard that.
Yeah, because you can't have self-sacrifice because you're killing your own god, which is you, sort of thing. So, but in saying that, there are a lot of things in bloody Christianity and Judaism and Islam that I don't like. So I don't have a problem. One way or the other. And I don't even know why we're getting down this track. I just start to ramble. But,
because this does have a lot of religious imagery in it.
Yeah.
And it's two extremes, like if you think of black and white, you think of Christianity and Satanism, even though Satanism really wouldn't be the polar opposite of Christianity. It just has different values from Christianity that are not all necessarily bad. But then again, I'm not trying to sell anybody on any kind of religion here, but I am trying to get people to go watch this short film.
Yeah. It's, I mean, maybe what it's really about is an individual's right to
choose,
be who they are, to choose who they are.
Self-expression.
Maybe that's what it's actually really about, And
I think it is.
Yeah, the religious imagery,
self-expression. Yeah, because it's that religion doesn't accept our protagonists as they are, but then he stumbles into this black mass where they're not only accepting this protagonist as they are, but they're also saying, it's you. You are exactly what we represent. And that's got to feel good. That's got to feel good.
Yeah. So look, I think it's a lovely little film. Actually, I really enjoyed it. And
the imagery is really out here. I mean, like I said, there are a lot of flashing images, weird music, weird visuals, but the underlying message is really not that hard. Like Warren and I trying to dissect it, we may get a little confused, but really, I mean, I think it is mostly about being individual, but also finding where you belong and being accepted for who you are, being accepted without having to change yourself, which, Yeah.
So
and plus you get to see boobs, but
yes.
Let me not promise too much on the boobs. That woman is wearing a goat's head the entire time.
Yes, I know. But no. I really liked it. I really recommend it. And it's, I think it's a good film for right now, where there are, we're at the stage in society, especially I'll rephrase that, in Western society anyway, where we are slowly starting to come to the realization that an individual should be able to choose their own identity, their own, their own belief. And although we've still got a long way to go, but we're starting to get there. And, and maybe that's what I like about this, that our character sort of says, no, I'll choose my own path. Thank you. So
absolutely.
Yeah. No, I like it. I like it
too. So it's called Black Mass. You can go to youtube.com/Nick Fears. That's N as in no, Y as in yes, X as in exciting, and Fears. Nick Fears. And if you like the video, you can also go check out his Patreon and support a little filmmaker. The way I just have to say this really fast, I think it's really funny. The way I even came across this YouTube channel originally, and I subscribed to his channel, was I found, I wanted to see this movie that came out at the beginning of the year called The Bye Bye Man.
Yes.
And I was looking for reviews, and I came across his review. The title of the video is "The Bye Bye Man is Some Dumb Shit." I was like, okay, evidently I don't need to see this movie, but I watched the review and definitely it convinced me I don't need to see this movie. But yeah, he's really great at doing film analysis, very entertaining, and also now he makes his own film. So check them out. All right.
Fantastic.
And Cult Movie Show. Stay Cult Movie Show, Essentia, and follow him on his social media and all that fun stuff. All right.
Excellent. All right. Well, we will take another quick break, and we will be back with a bit of action this time. And this is a fun one. Okay, so we're going to go to China now. Yes, a bit of Hong Kong cinema, and it's from 2002. And I must admit, I'm so glad we're actually doing a Chinese film, Velvet, because we've actually got quite a number of listeners in China. We've got quite a lot of listeners in China, actually, and I don't think we've actually done a Chinese movie before, have we?
I think the closest we've come to was the American and Chinese production of Enter the Dragon with Bruce Lee. But straight up China. Yeah, but straight up.
I mean, we've done. So. Yeah, we've done North Korea. We've done quite a few from Japan. But we haven't actually been to.
I love Pulgasari.
but we haven't actually been to China yet, and which is, I mean, two countries that we probably should deal a little bit more with because of the huge amount of product is, of course, China and India. Yes. So we need to try to sort of make up for that a little bit. But anyway, the movie we are talking about is the action adventure from 2002 called So Close. Now, it stars... please pardon my pronunciation on these names, okay?
I have no clue. I'm not even going to lie. I'm just going to apologize right now and say these names are going to get so butchered. Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry, guys.
Anyway, please pardon, but here we go. Stars Su Qi, Zhao Wei, and Karen Mok. Okay, I hope I pronounced those names correctly.
That sounds pretty good to me.
Okay.
Pretty good to me.
And I have to admit, Su Qi, or I think it's Su Qi or Su Chai, I'm not 100% sure. I've got to admit,
sorry.
I have had a crush on this woman for years. She is absolutely gorgeous. And you will have actually seen her in a Western movie because, of course, she was the star in the original Transporter movie from France. So you will have actually seen her in a Western movie before. But anyway, so our story basically deals with two sisters and their father, who was a scientist when they were very young, came up with this amazing invention. Now, you don't remember, this is 2002. All right, so this is going to date it a little bit, but comes up with this amazing invention that, when placed in a satellite, has the ability to log into any camera on Earth. Anyone, doesn't matter what it is, can hack into CCTV, into just hack into your video cam. You know, it's just and it's meant to be a basically world changing concept that could obviously be used as a weapon. Now, he is and his wife, so the mother, are murdered in front of the two kids, obviously when they're very young. And but anyway, they then grow up and they keep this invention for themselves. But what they end up using it for is crime, to actually make money. And they become incredibly successful assassins, blackmailers, basically very successful criminals. And our movie will then follow the story that a police officer, Hong Kong police officer, now this is the one played by Karen Mock, she basically tries to hunt them down. And so our story will follow basically the police trying to hunt them down, but at the same time, the criminals that they've been blackmailing are trying to hunt them down as well. So we've got this three-way sort of battle going on between the two sisters, between the Hong Kong police and between the criminals. Now, but what's so amazing about this movie, and the reason why we chose it really, is that it's pretty much an all-female action movie. So rather than being all males in these lead roles, so there are a couple of males obviously in major roles, but it's all female. It's women fighting women. It's women kicking men's ass. It's it's really good. It's shot really well. What did you think of So Close, Velvet?
Oh, goodness. This movie is over the top, and it's beautifully shot. I mean, it's a really interesting mixture of action with cinematography, like almost like high art cinematography. Just like the way they'll slow stuff down so you can see the bullet fly past the head or the glass, breaking and flying past, and they'll slow things down. Everything is always very bright. Like there's always like this white, blue cast. Everything's very, very, very brightly lit. It's really beautiful. There is tons of amazingly choreographed, good, fun fight choreography in this. Tons of wire fu, as we like to say.
Yes.
So the wire fu and the CGI in this reminds me of DOA, Dead or Alive with Eric Roberts. So it's in that vein. It's very over the top. It's a lot of fun to watch. But the story, oh my God, I did not like the story in this movie, but I liked the visuals and the fight scenes. So it balances out.
What about the story didn't you like, Velvet?
It got, I don't know why, but I was getting confused. Because first off, I was just the movie is an hour and an hour and 51 minutes. It could have been straight up an hour and a half. They could have shaved off about 20 minutes there. Because some of that stuff was just dragging. Like a half hour into the movie, I was still like, what is this movie about? I'm like, okay, I see these girls are assassins. And then finally they start unveiling stuff. Then all of a sudden people are after them. I'm like, well, who is that? And I'm like, oh, the guys that hired them are now trying to kill them, to silence them. Okay, I get it. But then the whole thing, I did not like the whole cat and mouse with the detective. Okay, the younger sister, this never would have happened if she wasn't fucking dangling a piece of, a carrot in front of the donkey. Because first off, the detective is in the music store, and this girl makes herself known to the detective, and now the detective knows what she fucking looks like. And then I was just like, why would you do that? So this whole cat and mouse thing could have been avoided, but this dumb younger sister for some reason keeps baiting the mouse trap with cheese, and I'm just. I was like, I don't know. For some reason, that just ruined the whole story for me. Because I was like, that was totally unnecessary and just should never have happened.
I think that is something, though, especially about martial arts or action style movies from Hong Kong, is that there is it's a little bit like sometimes the storylines can be a little bit simplistic. I'll put it that way.
Right.
And I think one of the reasons for that is that classic line by Jackie Chan, who said, "Don't let the story get in the way of a good stunt."
That's true.
So, and I think this does suffer from that a little bit. I agree.
Yes.
They could have cut 20 minutes out of this. It's a bit too long. The story with the two sisters, where they're fighting with each other because the younger sister wants to quit because she's refound her ex-love of her life from numerous years ago. They've refound themselves. She wants to now basically leave this working with her sister, and she wants to go off and
killing people for a living. That's understandable.
Yeah, she wants to go off basically and get married, and have a family, do the normal sort of thing. But her older sister, of course, doesn't want to stop. She wants to keep this business running because they own this piece of technology which nobody else in the world has.
Right.
So it's really interesting. So we've got that sort of almost inner battle between the two sisters as well. But that will come to a huge showdown, and I don't want to give too much away about the huge showdown, where the older sister is being chased by the police through the streets of Hong Kong in her car.
She's actually the younger one.
No, isn't she the older one? Or she's the younger one?
The older one does all the killing. The younger one does all the computer work.
Okay, so that's Zhao Wei anyway. So she's driving the car through the streets of Hong Kong, being chased by the police, and her other sister, so older sister, as you said, so Su Chai, is she's running the computer system with the satellite so she can guide her, through all the streets so she can get away. But simultaneously, while this is happening, while her sister is desperate, she's sort of saying, save me, the police are after you, you've got to save me. But while she's doing this, she's having a gun battle with the criminals who have raided their house. And so she's simultaneously running the computer while she's having this gun battle, and it's an amazing scene. Would you agree? It's kind of sad.
Yeah, no,
but
I did like the action in this movie. Like I said, it's very well choreographed. It's cool to see women fighting together, and they didn't go too cliche on the women fight scenes because they did have one scene where, okay, we got to see a panty shot, and we got to see them rip their clothing. So they did squeeze that in, and then there was they're in the fucking parking garage, and there was a bunch of puddles, and I'm like, oh, and here comes the water scene because if women are fighting, they got to get wet, but they actually didn't do it, and I'm like, yes. Okay, good. You guys gained back a point because you didn't do all the women fighting cliches.
But one thing that must be said is, did you love the opening scene when Su Chai walks into the offices, the giant skyscraper, which has been run by the criminals, and she goes in there to assassinate the boss, who, of course, but this, of course, will come back to haunt them because the brother of the man they kill will take over the organization and then try to hunt them down. But the gun battle, which takes place, and also the martial arts battle that takes place in this building, with her against all the hired goons as she's running around the building. And it's all done to the Carpenter's music. You mentioned,
I was like, are they going to play that same fucking song 50 times? I was like, please don't play this song over and over again. Yes, it gets played quite a few times. So close.
I know, close to
by
you.
the Carpenters.
Yeah, you
get to hear that a few times in this movie.
But what's so amazing about it, it's not the sort of music you would normally put with a fight scene. But somehow it works. It really, really works. I don't know how, but it really, really works. But all the fight scenes in this, the one in the elevator and the car park between the police and our two sisters, and then when our older sister, younger sister, will then go back, join forces with the police to take out the criminals, and that is that's where all that wire fu, comes in as she's jumping from story to story, within the within the building. It's it's really quite amazing to see. But I suppose it's like a lot of these things. It's only in Hong Kong do people jump in the air and are able to actually hover and fight when they're hovering, in the air.
I love that. That's like a cinematic standard in their cinema, in their action. Whether it's martial arts or like straight up shoot 'em up action, they do use a lot of the wire fu, but I love it. It's like very, it's almost trademark, for their style of cinema,
yes.
but I love it.
Yes.
I love it. You just accept it. That's just what they do. Just like in Bollywood, they're going to bust into a song and dance number in the middle of the movie. It doesn't matter what the movie's about. There's going to be a song and dance
There'll
number.
still be a song and dance number. I know. Even if it's a deadly serious drama, there'll still be a song and dance number. I know. But,
and in Chinese cinema, there's going to be wire fu if there's an action scene. So.
but look, I really did enjoy this. I really did think it was lots and lots and lots of fun. I love the way that the female leads, rather than male leads. And I'll tell you what, some of those girls could really. I'll tell you, they look good in those linen pantsuits. I mean, my God, that's a good look, because all of our cast are absolutely, well, it's Hong Kong cinema, isn't it? They're going to be gorgeous.
Yeah, not only are these women beautiful, but they have the minimal makeup look. I mean, these are naturally beautiful looking women, which is interesting because like in a lot of like Hollywood cinema, it doesn't matter how hardcore killer your character is. They've got their fake eyelashes, lipstick, full face of makeup. And these women have like no makeup on and they're just like beautifully gorgeous. And I thought that was really interesting that they have the minimal makeup look or possibly no makeup for their main characters.
Yes.
And I was like, that's an interesting beauty standard to see in cinema because you don't see it that often in the Western cinema. Like they're always heavily made up.
Oh yeah, and also the other thing too about these women, they are very athletic. I mean, some of the positions and the high kicks and stuff that they do, they're very athletic.
They're flexible, man.
Oh yeah.
They are flexible. Oh, okay. One of my complaints about this movie is they really try so hard it tries to be a tearjerker, but the tearjerker scenes in this movie did not manage to jerk a tear out of me at all. I just did not bond with these characters at all, unfortunately. And I'm pretty easy to get. I'm honestly pretty easy to get. And if I can't connect with your character, it's lacking character development, which is interesting because this is one of the few movies where it's, the main protagonists are assassins or contract killers, whatever you want to call them. And you usually don't get a lot of background story on assassin characters. And in this one, they give you a lot. Their sisters, their parents have been murdered. This is how they got started. This girl's reconnecting with someone she's in love with. And I still did not connect with these characters. I don't know why that is. So, but
yeah, no, I found
this
that
one didn't get me.
No, I mean, I found that myself too. I mean, I must admit, I was, this is the second time I've seen this movie, I must admit. I had seen it originally back in probably about 2004, somewhere around there. And then watching it again for the second time this week. And, I must admit, yes, it is a little bit hard to bond with the characters. I will admit that. But then again, maybe it's like we said before, don't let the story get in the way of a good stunt. Because, the fight scenes are very, very well done. And maybe that's just what it is. I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't exactly say this is high art, by any means, but I really did enjoy it. But I do agree with you, Velvet. If they maybe had to cut 20 minutes out of it, I think it would have worked a bit better. Yeah,
I agree. I agree. I mean, but they really were trying to build those characters up, make you care about the characters, but I just didn't, unfortunately.
Yes.
But I did. The visuals in this are really fun, though. Okay, first off, let me just say that these sisters are fucking straight up sociopaths. They don't break a sweat. No, I take that back, because the younger sister started breaking a sweat when she was actually going to kill somebody, but then you find out it's because she never kills people. She's the tech girl. She's a computer girl. But the other one, straight up sociopath, until finally all of a sudden she starts being like, oh, I can't wash the smell of the blood away. Just like,
yeah, I know.
Shut up. You like killing people. You have so much fun killing people. I was like, this entire movie you've been having fun killing people. Now all of a sudden you're acting like you're all regretful and you want to change your life. I don't believe you. Okay, but moving on to the nifty little gadgets they have in this movie. The sunglasses that give off a cyanide gas that kills somebody in like 5 seconds. And then she has the shoes that, let you stick to the ceiling. And then they have like the nifty little Batman wires that you shoot out of your pants and they let you jump off of buildings. So we got some nifty little gadgets in this movie.
It is quite a few sort of Bond-esque gadgets, I suppose. Yes, you would say because look, I still like it. I still think it stands up. I mean, when Suchai is hanging from the ceiling with just one foot in the, spiked into the ceiling with 2 pistols in each hand, taking out the thugs as they run into the room. I mean, it's pretty astounding. And a lot of it too, a lot of the jumping and the flying is done in slow motion as well. Not in all scenes. In some, it's very quick, very fast. But especially in the opening scene, there's quite a bit of it which is done in slow motion, which it's quite cinematically beautiful, actually.
It's really pretty. It's a really pretty movie for an action, like a jam-packed with action movie. It's really pretty. It's really pretty the way it's shot. I have to agree with you. This is definitely one of those movies, don't pay too much attention to the plot because it becomes too distracting and it takes away from the movie. Because right in the beginning, one of the things that bugged me was, okay, so the cop lady, the police officer, she's talking to an informant, and this is basically what he says: no one knows who did the hit, who murdered that guy. No one knows who did the hit, but 10 years ago, a man bought a bunch of surveillance equipment. I'm like, what?
Yeah, I know.
What? Wait, what?
Yeah.
Huh? It just made no sense. I was like, okay.
Well, it's like they're working, they're trying to work in this idea that he's giving them information to the way that the father originally bought the equipment to set up the system that the children inherited to use. But the problem is it's too disjointed.
It was so poorly done. Exactly. It's totally disjointed. I was like, what? That's like me saying, I'm going to the movies yesterday. I ate Chinese food. What? Yeah, I know. It is okay.
They just weren't able to piece that together very well. Yeah, and which was a shame because it's I mean that was a bit of a shame. But here's another thing too: is it does show you that you can, if you're a good actress or a good actor, you can move away from your past. For instance, as we said before, Suchai is one of the main characters in this. Now, she started her career in Hong Kong as an erotic actress.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Doing basically, sort of softcore movies. So, people would say, oh, she used to be a porn actress. No, she wasn't a porn actress. She just used to take her clothes off in every movie she was in, basically, right? But it goes to show you that she is now a huge name star in China. Absolutely,
cool.
Huge. So it's which I like, because she came from, basically doing nude modeling and doing softcore movies. But then, would go on and she's making tons of movies. I just recently saw the remake of Monkey, if you remember the TV show Monkey, where she actually stars in the prequel to Monkey, which was released a couple of years ago in China. So she's making a ton of stuff, and as we said, she was in the original Transporter.
Right on.
So it's so that's kind of cool that China has sort of said, don't care about your past. You're a good actress, so we'll keep, go for it, girl. So I really like that. I'm impressed by that.
That is cool. There was in this movie, there was a very small lesbian storyline that they didn't really follow through with too well, but. I was kind of actually looking forward to them doing more of that storyline. They didn't really do much with it. So first off, we have the younger sister starts dangling the carrot in front of the cop they're shopping for CDs. They're in a music store. I actually really like that scene. It made me nostalgic. I missed the days of shopping for CDs, of actually physically going in and listening to music and, buying actual CDs. I actually like that part of the scene. But yeah, the way the younger sister's looking at this cop, at first I thought she was just like flirting with her. And I thought it was going to be one of those stories of those two fall in love and then they find out they're actually enemies. Like, oh shit, you're a cop. Oh shit, I'm an assassin, but we're in love.
Yeah.
Like, I actually would have liked that storyline, but they do not do that. They do not do that with this story. And then at the very end, they share a very quick kiss. Well, actually, the young girl steals a kiss from her, but that's it. That's your lesbian theme.
But I think
that was a wasted opportunity.
But I think there is meant to be that underlying theme that the police officer and the younger sister are meant to be lesbians.
Yes, absolutely.
But they just haven't come out yet. Put it that way.
That might be
they're still in the closet as such.
Because the younger sister, there's even a scene in the movie where she's like, "Well, not everybody needs a man to make them happy."
Yes,
and later, and I'm kind of like, "Oh." And that's why she's pissed off, because her sister's batting for the other team and she hasn't found a team member for her own team yet.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's something there, because she definitely does seem to have quite a fixation with the police officer, Karen Mock. I mean, she and it's not just a fascination as in this is crime, sort of trying to outthink her. It's almost a romantic fascination.
She looked like she wanted her in the in the CD in the music store. I thought she was going to go hit on her, but then I don't. I think it was such a wasted opportunity. But like you said, at the same time, I think you're right. The characters hadn't really come out, so. Okay.
Yeah, I think in many ways we could almost sum up this and sort of say that this is great fight scenes, great action scenes. But the story just somehow doesn't seem to really come together. And they had some really interesting ideas, but they just didn't go anywhere with those ideas.
Right. And another one, there's a scene where the older sister's connecting with this guy that she's in love with, and she hasn't told him what she does for a living. And I'm like, you don't have a cover job? You're a fucking assassin. What do you tell people when you meet people? You don't just say, oh, I can't tell you what I do for a living. Sorry. But that's what she does. She's like, oh, I can't tell you what I do for a living. But then she kicks some guy's ass because they were getting ready to rob him. And she pulls out a gun and she's like, oh, well, this is kind of what I do.
But the other thing too is that the boyfriend's a little bit like, oh, so you're an assassin. Oh, okay, well, that's cool. I'm an accountant, by the way, now, so you're an assassin. That's fine. I'm an accountant,
That's okay. I still love you, even though you kill people for money. Who am I to judge?
Yes. I mean, it's kind of like if you fell in love with somebody, right, and they sort of say, and they finally admit what they do for a living for some reason that hasn't come up before. But anyway, and when it does come up, they sort of say, oh yeah, I'm an assassin. It's like, yeah, I might just want to think twice about this whole thing. Yeah.
Exactly. First off, the fact that you will do that is one thing. Then the whole thing is, well, now I'm being selfish. Now I'm thinking about my own fucking safety. Is being around you going to get me killed? I'm just too selfish to be in love with an assassin. Sorry. Can't do it.
I know. It did remind me a little bit, though, this movie, of the movie Black Cat from Hong Kong, which, of course, was a remake of La Femme Nikita from France.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Okay, about
which
the female
in the United
assassin.
States is No Way Out with Bridget Fonda?
Bridget Fonda.
I just forgot her name.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bridget Fonda.
But the original, of course, is La Femme Nikita from France. And Hong Kong did a copy, just as America did a copy, and their copy was called Black Cat. And I've got to admit, although that was made in the 90s or something like that, I think, but it's actually a much better film. If you want to see that female assassin, it's actually much better, because in Black Cat, there really is this concept of she falls in love with a man, And the problem is, how will her career work with the fact that she's fallen in love with somebody? So it sort of works a lot better than it does in this movie. I'd have to say that. That's a good one to check out, actually.
I'm going to have to check that out, because I love female assassin movies, actually. Like, I love Kill Bill, which... Kill Bill is one where you don't learn a lot about why Beatrix is an assassin, how she became an assassin, but you know about her life now and what's going on. But it's interesting that I'm connected to that character and I know less about her. Whereas with this character, they give you a lot of information on the two sisters, and I just don't care about them. I'm not sad when something bad happens. I'm just like, do some more action, please, because you just can't jerk any tears out of me on this one. Sorry.
Pardon me.
Sorry, you can't do it. Oh, and this is cultural, evidently, but I have to throw this out there. This was so weird to me. Okay, it's raining, and the older sister's with this guy that she's reconnected with, and he runs into a convenience store, grabs a bottled drink, and sticks it in the microwave, and then he runs back out in the rain and hands it to her. And
to warm her up. I know.
I'm like, okay, was that necessary? Did I really just watch this guy fucking microwave a drink for 2 minutes and run back out in the rain to hand it out to her?
I thought that was a bit weird. That I don't know if that's cultural. I just thought that was weird.
That's what I was like. It must have some underlying culture that we as Westerners miss out on, because that could be it. It could be like that's the equivalent of literally saying I love you or I care about you. But for us, it's just like, did he just microwave a fucking drink?
Yeah, I don't know. It was kind of weird. I mean, it's a little bit like, well, why don't you just give me a jacket? I mean, it was a little bit like...
Yeah, leave me standing in the rain while you run indoors. Thanks, asshole. Like,
yeah, it's kind of weird that... I must admit. But I agree with you, Velvet, though. I'm a big fan of the female assassin. There is something... there's something very interesting about that. I mean, maybe one of the reasons is that it plays with our taboos of society, because it's like we've always had this idea in society that it's like, women give birth, they bring life into the world, but then the men are the ones who take life, if you like,
right.
The soldiers and all this sort of thing. Now, of course, in today's world, that's absolute bollocks. We've got, basically women are 100% equal to men, and in areas where they're not, they should be.
Right.
And but women can do I know, I don't know, I must admit I don't know what it's like in the American military, but in the Australian military, a woman can do any job a man can do. They can fly fighter jets, they can crew submarines, they can drive tanks. They can do anything. So
there's still that sexual disconnect over here. There is still that sexual disconnect over here. There are certain branches of military that women cannot enter in.
Ah, okay. I mean,
yeah.
One of the things that was here was that I know when women, about 20 years ago, women first started to serve on submarines in the Navy, and there was this big argument about, well, how are you going to have women on submarines? There's such, where are they going to? And it was a little bit like, well, for fuck's sake, so someone gets seen in their underwear, big fucking deal. Deal with it. These people have been trained to kill other human beings. I think they can cope with it. They're adults,
It's really sad over here. Well, there's two main problems with why it's still very segregated over here. There are definitely equal branches where, men and women serve equally in branches of military, and there's certain ones where it's a boys' club. Like trying to come in as a female, forget about it. And the two main problems are, the first one is, honestly, there's that bias of people don't want to send their fucking daughters home in body bags. So there's that's part of just the cultural thing that they won't let women enter certain branches because they know it means certain death. They're going to get killed. The other one is the rape culture is still outrageously horrendous within the military in the United States. They cover it up like crazy, but so many women report being sexually harassed by not only their cohorts, like people that are on the same level as them, but their superiors sexually harassing them and raping them and then covering it up, and then the women being fired or labeled as crazy. So, I mean, there's a lot of problems with the system over here for women in the military. It's outrageous.
Well, that rape culture, unfortunately, not so much rape culture, I would say sexual assault culture, because a lot of what has gone on in Australia has not been so much actual rape, but it's still sexual assault. It's been feeling people up, touching, that sort of grab them by the Donald Trump style, So it's been sexual assault, but not actually like full-on rape. I hope you understand what I'm saying. I'm not...
Absolutely. No, I do. We would call it sexual harassment, what you're saying, when it doesn't become actually a straight-up, like, violently physical altercation, but, like, verbal harassment or physical harassment, but not to the point that you're physically harmed, but harassed.
However, in saying that, there have been rape cases in the Australian military.
Right.
But I think one of the beauties that finally got our military kicked in the head to actually finally go 100% fully equal, 50%. Women do everything that men can do. And also trying to stop that culture of harassment was having a female prime minister. And I think that
helps a lot, yeah.
That changed a lot for Australia, because suddenly you had the most powerful person in Australia was a woman.
Right. So, I think that does help a lot.
Yeah, and I think it and I think that did change it, sort of quite a bit. I'm not saying there aren't problems still. Of course, there are still problems, but but it definitely did. But I suppose we went a bit off topic there. But I suppose what I was trying to say was that the reason why
female stereotypes
is that the female assassin is sort of taboo, because you've got the birth giver who is also killing, and I suppose it plays with that sort of primeval taboo, and I think maybe that's what it makes it so interesting.
I think so too. A lot of times too. No, that's true. And a lot of times too, that theme does actually come up in films where there's a female contract killer. Is that a lot of times the conflict in the movie doesn't happen until a pregnancy is involved, either her own pregnancy or her target is pregnant. Yeah, that always. I mean, that deals with that whole taking life, giving life. Yeah, and it's a popular theme in female assassin films because it is. People have this instinct that. Even Scarface, he's like, I'll kill anybody except for women and children.
Yes.
It's like, so yeah, it's always a taboo subject that's fun to play with in these movies because nobody's actually getting killed.
Yeah, but if you think about it though, you look at the James Bond franchise. Now, we haven't as yet had an actual female master villain, but we have a lot of the sidekick killers and so forth that the super villain hires. We've had a lot of women. We've had a lot of women. One of the most famous, Pussy Galore, although she turns good in the end, but she was a baddie. She starts the movie as a baddie, So,
my favorite was always the one that was on the top, the one that would kill guys by crushing them with her legs.
Oh, in GoldenEye, yes, I know. But how cool? I mean, you've got to admit though, is that just the coolest assassin ever? Well, female assassin, and on top of that, she's Russian. I mean, is that just so cool? I mean, it ticks every box.
She likes rough sex, and she likes to kill people during sex. I think that character's hilarious.
Oh, and she's not that, I am Russian. I kill people. It's just so. And no, but I don't. I'm not saying that Russians are bad people. Please don't get me wrong.
No. Love Russians. Love Russia.
Love Russians. They're great people. Don't so much like their leader, but I absolutely love the people in the country. But but no. What I mean is, it's the accent which is so cool. It's the Russian accent more than any other accent just plays to an English-speaking audience anyway. Okay, it just plays to that evilness, so
Absolutely.
well.
Even in cartoons, over here we have Rocky and Bullwinkle, and they have Natasha and Boris, and they're the two bad guys, and they have Russian accents, and that's a fucking cartoon for kids.
Yes.
So even that Cold War stereotype is very inbred in the United States, even though we love Russians. We still love to have Russian bad guys in movies. We love it. We love it. Oh my God, Air Force One. Gary Oldman plays a Russian terrorist on the plane.
I know.
love the evil Russian stereotype.
But it is a stereotype, though. But it is changing, though. I mean, if you think about it now, in so many movies, okay, let's forget about the Arab. There's always going to have to be the evil Arab, right? But let's forget about that for 1 second, right? Who is the nationality that is starting to creep up and up and up more and more and more as the set piece American villain? They're British. Have you noticed this? How many villains now in American films are British?
How interesting. Because they're such smug fucks. No, I'm kidding. I don't know why that is actually. No, all joking aside, I really don't know why that's happening right now. That's really interesting. Oh, speaking of which, The Kingsman. I love that movie. No Russians in it.
Oh, that's a great film.
No Russians in it, but they have a female sidekick assassin, and she's got like some crazy like needle legs.
and there's Kingsman 2 is being released.
Oh, I can't wait. I'm actually excited about that.
Oh, look, I know.
Oh, Colin Firth was so hot in
Yeah.
the first one. I've never seen him do an action film before, and he was so good. I wish his character hadn't died in that movie. I'd love to see him in the sequel.
Oh, that fight scene in the church.
Oh
that
my God,
is
that's so intense.
that's amazing.
Sick.
But
he's killing a lot of people.
But you think about that movie, the cast. I mean, just the big three who were in it. You had Colin Firth. You had Sam. I'm Sam Jackson, and I like to yell. You had and then you had Michael Caine. I mean, just it was amazing. And then even the second, even a lot of our other actors were still very well known. And that movie got canned. I remember when it came out. People
it's a
hated
shame.
it.
It's so good.
And I love it. I can't wait for the sequel. I really can't.
I'm excited too. I was like, oh, they're making another one.
Yeah. And I love the way it played with the Knights of the Round Table, and you know so it's very
love the clean cut image. These are not the dirty, secretive spies. I mean, these are all very high cultured, classy, well educated gentlemen that know how to kill.
Well, Kingsman plays with that original idea of James Bond, doesn't it? It's that idea that British spies were all gentlemen who all dressed in Savile Row suits, and you know, it's like they wouldn't leave the house unless they had a clean pair of polished Oxford shoes, and you know, do you know what I mean? It's like, but it worked so well. But the other thing too about The Kingsman, which is I thought it was hilarious. I know a lot of people were shocked, but I thought it's so hilarious, was the ending of that movie with the princess, the Swedish princess. Now, I thought that was hilarious. I really thought that was hilarious.
That was funny. Let's just say the Swedish princess likes anal sex. That's all.
Yes, but it was just the line was just so out of left field. It's like, where did that come from?
Oh, damn.
But I thought,
did they mean to leave that in? Was that supposed to be for the gag reel? It was like, nope, it's in the final cut. It's in the movie.
Oh, well, it's like there's a great B-grade movie called Shark Attack 3, which
number 3,
which was I think filmed in Mexico, I think, or it might have been the Caribbean.
Sounds about right.
And anyway, it's from the 80s or 90s, I think it was. Sorry, in the 90s or early thousands, and it stars our friend from Torchwood.
Oh, I love that guy.
Okay. Anyway, he was, and there's the classic line in that where he's with the main, you know, female star, and just before they go off to hunt down the giant shark, he's there, and this is no joke, this line's in the movie, and he goes, "Let's go back to your place and I'll eat your pussy." and you're there and you're watching this and you're going, what the fuck was that?
Comes out of nowhere. I know exactly what you're talking about now. I've heard that was actually unscripted, and he said that to try to make her laugh, and she like played it straight and didn't laugh, and they actually left it fucking in.
And they left it in, but it's so classic now because of course we all know, of course, that he's gay, you know, in real life.
Yes, he's gay in real life. That's right.
So but it's just one of those lines, as you said, unintentional, but they left it in. Oh god. Anyway,
I love it.
I suppose we should probably wrap up so close because we were so close maybe actually try to review this film, and we got so off track. So how on the Eric Roberts scale?
Okay,
are you going to rate so close?
A possible 5 Eric Roberts. I'm actually going to give this 3 Eric Roberts because the cinematography is so beautiful and the fight choreography is so fun to watch. The Wire Fu is on point. It's entertaining. I didn't like the story at all, but the women are so beautiful, and it is actually a fun movie to watch. And the soundtrack, really, I mean, I was a little annoyed hearing the same Carpenter song again and again, but the whole soundtrack is really unconventional for an action film like this. So check it out. 3 Erics out of a possible 5.
Okay, well, I'm going to give it 4. 4 Erics out of 5. Simply because I think that this movie, once again aside, this movie's got everything. It's, the female assassins, all the dominant characters are women rather than men. The fight scenes are great. The cinematography is fantastic. The music works so beautifully with the fight scenes. This is actually one thing I'll just say quickly is I remember there was a Jackie Chan film that my daughter absolutely loved. She still loves, and I've forgotten the name of it now. And amazingly, it stars the same woman, Su Che, which is right. And my daughter absolutely fell in love with it. And it's a Jackie Chan film. But anyway, I remember my daughter forced my mother to watch it when she was younger. She said, "You have to watch this. It's my favorite film. You have to watch this." And anyway, and I still remember my mother, actually, who hates violence. My mother deplores any sort of violence, just cannot stand it. And she said, I wasn't actually shocked by that. She said, because, the thing I've found about Chinese movies that my granddaughter keeps forcing me to watch is that they don't fight, they dance.
Right. Like, I'm calling it Wire Fu, but no, you're right. That choreography, this isn't just like, this isn't blood and guts, it really is stylized. They spent a lot of time putting that choreography together. No, I love it. I like it too. I love the genre.
And that's the thing about the fight scenes that, as you said, they're choreographed. It is, like my mother said, it's, they don't fight, they dance. So, yeah. So anyway, I'm going to give it a 4. It's only really let down by the story is a bit boring. And they don't really follow through with the character development and, and that sort of thing very well. But, so yeah, I'll give it 4 out of 5 Erics.
Right on.
Cool. All right. Well, we'll take a quick break and then we'll be back with another film, which, well, this is one that people hated at first and now have fallen in love with. Now, for our second or final movie of this show is A Little Offering from Canada, and from 1997 called Cube. And this is a really interesting film. It was a film that, well, pretty much got canned internationally when it first came out. Although it did extraordinarily well, it actually won several film awards in Canada, but it actually made money. It cost them $350,000 to make, and they
Canadian dollars.
That's Canadian dollars, and they basically made $565,000 back in the box office alone. So that doesn't then take into account international sales, and DVD sales and all the rest of it. So the movie was a quite a big success, but it wasn't liked by reviewers when it first came out. But now it's sort of developed into a real cult film. It's a movie, that's definitely sort of very popular in cult circles. Now, the general story is that it's really about a whole heap of individuals who wake up and they're in these little isolated rooms, if you like, these cube rooms. And there are doorways. Every So each wall, the floor, the ceiling has a door, and they can move through these doors and then move into another cubed room. And that cubed room is exactly the same. It has its doors, on, and so forth. And so slowly we get a group of people who basically find each other, as they're working their way through going from room to room. And they come together and then basically try to see if they can figure out a way to get out of this thing. And also the concept of why are they there? Who built this contraption? Why are they inside it? And it follows our actors as they slowly try to figure out how this device they're trapped in works and how to try to get out of it. And within that too, we will start to see development of character through a number of them, which some will be quite nice people, some will be very nasty people. And can they escape or can't they escape? Can they work it out? It's a really interesting film, don't you think, Velvet?
Oh, I love this movie. I saw it in the theater in Germany, a couple years after it came out, and it finally made its way over from Canada to Germany. And even in a dubbed version of this movie, it was still very impactful, and I remember it to this day, and I've rewatched it since then. And this is one of those movies that, although I've seen it several times, I know what happens, I know how it ends. Every time I'm watching it, it still puts me on edge. It's just the tension and the suspense of this movie, and the acting in this movie is spot on. It's solid. It's so well done. And it's a low budget film. I mean, they made this for under $500,000, and the entire movie, basically, even though they're moving around in the movie from room to room, the entire movie takes place in a box.
Yes.
and all they do is they switch out the gels of the walls. So like you have the red room, the green room, the yellow room, the blue room, but it's all the same fucking room. They just change the color of the walls for each
That's
scene.
right. We're just meant to think that they're moving from box to box.
But it's so well done.
Yeah.
So well done.
It really is. And I like all the different sorts of characters who meet up.
Yes.
One of them we find out has a secret about the cube itself.
Oh my God.
We have the doctor, so the medical person. We have the science student. We have the person with a mental sort of disability, who turns out to have a certain gift. We also have the police officer who we think is going to be a good person, but turns out to be anything but. And so it's very interesting to see the development of the characters the longer and longer they're in there, and how their true personalities start to come out. Like, not what their actual personalities are on the outside, but what they truly are on the inside starts to emerge.
Oh my God.
So it's very interesting. It's a very interesting film.
Yeah, the way this movie unfolds really does surprise you. I like that they do the initial setup scene. Like in the very beginning of the movie, somebody gets murdered.
Yes.
But they do, and this person has nothing to do with the rest of the movie. But I love that they do that, because it tells you right away first off, what the fuck is going on. Like, it doesn't tell you what's going on, but it's telling you one of the things you have to worry about. Basically, you can walk into any one of these rooms and get murdered. Like, literally, you don't know what's going to happen. It turns out some of the rooms are booby-trapped, but they are deadly booby-trapped. And they have stuff like, you'll walk into a room and it's sound activated. So you might be able to walk through the whole room, but then all of a sudden you start talking and a trap just comes to life and kills you. Or it could be motion activated. So the moment you walk in that room, you're dead. Or even heat activated. It senses your body heat the moment you walk in, and again, a fucking trap happens. I mean, they have stuff like it'll throw acid on your face and melt to your brain. It has these fucking wires that just slice you in half or into a million little cubes. I mean, you don't know what's going to happen. That's one of the scary things when you very first see this movie and you realize that anytime you walk into a room, you might get murdered. So they're trying to figure out how they can get the fuck out of this thing. But how do you know which rooms you can go through without getting murdered? Or can you cheat the machine? Like, just, oh my God, it's so exciting.
But it's also, I mean, I think one of the issues people had with this film originally is that unlike other very similar films, either from before or later, I mean, we have the, like the Saw franchise, for argument's sake. We have a movie which has only just recently been released from the United States, The Circle. These are similar movies in the sense, the idea of people being trapped and have to play games literally to try to escape. And through that, of course, we get the slasher component where people get killed off. But we also get that character development as we start to find out, who the people really are. Does the good shine in the person, or does the evil, shine in the person? But one of the differences with this film, unlike, let's say, the Saw franchise or the Circle, is that in this movie, we never really get to sort of work out what the fuck is going on. Like, there's no concept through this film about why it's happening, or
I love that. I think they pull that off so well in this movie because, a lot of times if I'm watching a movie and like people are getting killed, it's going to tell you why they're getting killed. And this movie doesn't, but they do address it, is what I like about this movie. Yeah. So, because these people have no idea how they got there. They don't know why they're there. And so they have tons of theories. They're like, is it aliens? Is this punishment for me doing something bad? Is this a government project? Is this entertainment for some rich psychos? Is this a social experiment? Is this military warfare being tested? Is this a puzzle? And what I like is you see all these different interactions and you don't know. You're like, you don't know. And then, like, for me, one of the icing on the cakes, like, this movie's from 1997, so we'll try not to spoil it too much, but I'm definitely going to do a little bit of spoilers because it's been out for so long. First off, okay, we have a mixture of all kinds of people in there. They even put fucking people in there that work for the company that designed this death machine or whatever it is. I'm like, damn, nobody is safe. Nobody is safe. So here's the thing is, if this thing there's no way out and it possibly has no point, what does that do to you mentally? This is an amazing character study in survival and desperation and hope.
I think that's the thing for me. I found it fascinating watching them trying to work out all the features of this prison, if you like, rather than necessarily why the prison was there. I love this idea of them trying to work out how Wish Room was safe.
And I love that you're calling it a prison. That's an interesting interpretation too. So they're just randomly taking people and putting them into this prison machine. Is that what this is?
Well, there is something in this, and I'll just start by saying, first of all, this wasn't actually a truly original idea. There was an episode of The Twilight Zone from 1961, which was called 5 Characters in Search of an Exit. Now, this movie... I know exactly what
you're talking about. I remember that.
Is actually, shall we say... It does draw from that, quite heavily. But here's the thing, the concept of the prison. Now, all of the characters in this movie are named after prisons.
They are, yes.
Their actual names are names of prisons around the world, so you won't recognize a lot of them. But they're from prisons around the world. So it's... it is interesting. I love the way that the university student starts to shine with her understanding of mathematics. But then the one that we think is going to be the leader, who's going to lead them, basically turns out not to really be a leader. He's just a power-hungry thug. And in his real life, he's hiding behind this concept of being a police officer, which gives him this concept of power. But actually, inside his heart, he's a really dark, evil, sadistic person.
That's really scary. If you realize you're stuck in a situation that you possibly can't get out of, and you got to rely on each other to help each other, but then you realize one of you is fucking crazy. That's some scary shit. That's scary.
Oh yeah, because it starts out because there's almost a respect for him at the start. It's like, maybe this guy will pull us together and lead us through. Because you think about it, all disaster movies or all horror movies, there's always a leader. Someone who will take sort of control. But what's amazing about this film is that our person who is the leader turns out, as we said, to be a really nasty piece of work.
God.
And that's a
horrifying.
but it's a really interesting twist within itself,
Yes.
It's like there's a classic line when the doctor says to him, and she sort of says, do you beat your children at home?
Ooh.
It's like they're starting to get into
that look on his face.
Yeah. And it's like, and this look is almost like my secret's out. I'm actually a sadist. But
oh my God.
But I hide behind a uniform so nobody knows. But I'm actually a sadist,
Totally. Yeah. Like I said, the acting in this was amazing. And even the character development, because you basically have 6 main characters and you learn quite a bit about them. Not like, okay, what they do for a living, their whole backstory, but you learn like their character, like who they are, what they, what their role is in this. I love the twist at the beginning. Well, first off, not the twist where, like, very beginning, some random dude gets killed and you're like, oh, shit, that's what's going on in this place. But the next dude that gets killed is the one you think's actually going to help them get out of there. This is a guy that career criminal. What does he do? He constantly breaks out of prisons. He has a record of breaking out of 7 prisons.
Yes.
So you think, he's going to get him out of this fucking place, and he is the first one in that group to go. And I don't mean he gets out of there. I mean, he gets a one-way ticket to the afterlife. And you're like, oh, shit, there went that. Like, he's not going to get them out of there. He's already gone. He's done. I was like, oh, shit.
But the other thing, too, which is interesting, is that how are these people... well, we won't say they're saved, but how do they move towards being saved? And what's really interesting is the thing that saves them is science. It's mathematics. A couple of them, their ability to actually forget about being bossy, forget about trying to control the group and all this sort of stuff, but they start to use their brains rather than their brawn. And that's what's really interesting. I mean, the fact that they work out that every room has a number, and they think that it's their prime numbers is what makes the route safe through the safe rooms. But they then, of course, find out it's not prime numbers, it's actually the power of a prime number, which is quite a different thing.
Astronomical numbers, you need a computer, you need a scientific calculator, or you could just have Kazan.
Yes.
You can have the special character in the room, our mentally disabled young man who happens to be a mathematics savant. So you don't need a computer. You can just shout out the number and he just instinctively knows. Yeah. So I love that character. First off, I love the way he plays the character. And I love how they really save that reveal towards the end of the movie. And you realize that this character that you kind of feel sorry for and you're like, oh God, why is he there? And it turns out he has like one of the most special gifts on the planet.
Yes. Well,
but will that be enough to save him or anybody else?
And there's also, I mean, what's interesting about this is that all except for one of our characters turn out to have this ability of the community above the individual. They will put their own lives at risk if it means saving someone else or saving the group. All except for one, who is Quentin. And, I mean, we've seen so many of these. We mentioned him just before, obviously. We've seen so many of these types. They're all bluster. They're all about war. Let's go to war. Let's kick their ass. Let's do all this. But when it comes down to it, they just want everybody else to die for them so they can have the power. Or in this case, he's prepared to kill everybody else off as long as he can escape.
Right.
But the beauty of all our other characters is that they're the exact opposite. They are prepared to sacrifice themselves for the group to get out. And we see that, for instance, where the character played by David Hewlett, and a very young-looking David Hewlett, I have to admit. And if you don't know who David Hewlett is, very famous Canadian actor, who, of course, probably is most famous for his role in Stargate. The very famous TV show. So,
yes.
But in that, he starts off where he doesn't want to do anything. He knows he can't get out. And when he starts to realize that, using mathematics and science, they can try to actually get their way out. And he's an engineer by trade. So they start to, and then there's the scene where they lose one of them. One of them gets trapped in a room which they're not in. And he puts his own safety at risk to try to save him. So he leaves the room to try to save somebody, not knowing whether he can ever come back. So it's that idea of self-sacrifice I found very interesting as well, which is put into this movie.
Yes, I love that they do show the goodwill of human beings to help each other. They're not leaving each other behind, except for the cop.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do love that recurring theme throughout this movie. I do like the math in this, because even if you're not a math person, they do explain it in a way that's approachable for the everyday person. So, because they do have that mixture of characters in the cube that you have your logical thinkers and you have your creative thinkers, is what I like to think of them as. So you have that mixture of people, and they both have to speak in ways that everybody can understand each other. And just, but the fucking conflict, I just think it's such an amazing psychological, like you could almost call this a psychological thriller, because it's just like, what does that do to you? You have no way out. You don't know why you're here. You don't know who you can trust. I mean, I think it's really a really smartly written film, actually. I think the script is really good. It's really well paced, especially for a movie that essentially takes place in one room. Even though they are giving you the illusion of moving from room to room, it's essentially one room, and the pacing is excellent. You don't get bored. You're not like, oh God, they need to hurry up and go to the next room. It's always moving. It's always going.
Well, that's the thing. And with those characters, it's like, if we actually run through them and we have a look at them, it's interesting how, the group is so important. It's like we've got, Tarzan, as you said before.
Yes.
So he's the autistic savant, and
right.
So he's got this ability which they need desperately. Without him, they cannot do the calculations. They cannot do the mathematical calculations. So they will die. But then, of course, we've then got Quentin, who the police officer, but of course his answer to everything is just punch it in the face.
God.
So the problem is that he's there and he's so hung up on his own, I'm a winner, you're a loser, concept of life, that the fact is he's almost prepared to kill the people that he needs to survive, but he can't
prepared.
Yeah, but he can't think outside of his own mindset, which is just like, if there's a problem, punch it. We've then got the character David, who's actually David Hewlett.
Knows a little bit about what's going on, not completely, but basically he's kind of an employee. And actually, I'll do a slight spoiler on this because this is actually really fun. So, let me backtrack for a second. Let's go back to Kazan. I always keep getting confused. Okay, Kazan, our autistic savant, the one that we're like, okay, we need this character in this movie. So Cube has 2 sequels. So the second movie I really don't care for. Hypercube, seen it, don't really care for it. The third one is ridiculously low budget. It has that kind of trilogy death of a film where it gets so low budget that you're just like, there's not going to be another one after this. But I like what they did with the third one, because this one is told from the perspective of the employees of the Cube, which is interesting. And I'm going to do a huge spoiler on that movie, but I thought it was really clever what they did. Basically, one of the employees, he starts kind of rebelling against the whole Cube system, because even though they still don't even really know what's going on, even though he works for this system, whatever it is, he doesn't even know what's going on. He kind of rebels against it. So basically, they give him a lobotomy and they stick him in the Cube. And then you realize that's Kazan.
Fascinating.
That's Kazan, because the whole movie, this guy
Fascinating.
was a math whiz. Yeah, this whole movie, the guy was a math whiz, and then all of a sudden he gets stuck in the cube, and he doesn't have all of his abilities, and you're like, oh my god, that's Kazan from the first Cube. So, anyways, they didn't use the same actor, but they used the same character.
Well, it does also explain something. It was when they first meet Kazan, if you remember, he's bleeding from the head.
Yes.
So that is interesting. But just to finalise our other characters, then we've got Joan, who's the mathematician. So she's a math student who's able to then work out how the mathematics works to then give it to Kazan to then computerize it, if you like. We've got Helen, who's the doctor, and she's sort of like our hope, if you like. She represents
I really
hope.
like that character.
Yeah.
She's so passionate. She's so passionate.
You know, and as they say, she's a free clinic doctor, which means that she works for the government system. She doesn't work for the private medical systems, you know.
Yeah, she's not there for the money. She cares about people.
She cares about people. So she's sort of like our hope, if you like, our humanity sort of coming through. So we've got all these different, you know, sort of characters in it, and each one is sort of representing the different elements of survival. And if you have a look at, you know, like just human society, you know, we've got the scientists who design things that make out so we can live, you know. We've got those who care for us, who keep us well if we get sick. We have those that build things for us, design things for us, you know, and then we've also got, you know, those thugs, unfortunately, that want to steal power and control everybody. So we've sort of got this very interesting statement about humanity as a society all through these different characters. So it's almost like the world within a cube.
Yes, there's total diversity. And they also talk about nobody knows what the fuck the cube is, because whoever is making this or designing it is making sure that everybody is separate. Like, whoever's designing the traps doesn't know what the traps are for. Whoever's designing the actual, like, outside shell of the cube, they don't know what's going inside the cube. I mean, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's a really... I think it's a really smart script, actually. Also, the actual cinematography of this film is really well done for such a low budget. First off, they use a great use of sound to add tension, because you constantly hear like rumblings and mechanizations of whatever this cube thing is that they're stuck in. And also the camera perspectives are really amazing. Most of the film was shot using like a handheld camera. So they have those perspectives where they zoom right in on somebody's face and you really feel like a fly on the wall, like just watching all this action go down. And then also there is the, excellent, just simple but effective, the special effects and the makeup. Like, they have the people sweating to add to the tension. They have them getting dry, crusty lips because of dehydration, because they've been in the cube without food or water. I mean, nice attention to detail for such a low budget film. And this film was shot in 20 days. So pretty impressive.
And I liked some of the ideas they came up with too. Like, for instance, they couldn't judge time. Okay. But they could judge cycles of time. So, for instance, they wouldn't know how long an hour was, but they could work out how long 24 hours was. By the simple fact, by the guy's facial hair growth. They could work out, okay, well, it's been 24 hours now. I know, you know, like, I haven't shaved. I know that's 24 hours. This is 48 hours. So that was so there was all this stuff thrown in that was really interesting, I thought. It really is a quarter of a movie. I really like it.
Oh, I love this movie. Yeah, it's like, one of those you see in the theater, it sticks with you. When you find it on VHS, you go watch it. I mean, that's what happened with me with VHS. And then, like, then they had, like, the sequels. Couldn't wait to see the sequels. Of course, the second one I don't recommend. The third one, it's kind of fun just because it's a different perspective, and also you kind of get to see the creation of Kazan. You know, that's a nice little throwback to the first one. But But this is, if I recommend any of them, it would be Cube, the first one, because it's such a cool concept. And I love that, like, when they use the math, like, they work out that there's possibly 17,576 rooms. Wow.
Yes.
If that's true, how the fuck are they going to get out? Can they get out? Will they get out? Is there a way to get out? I mean, it asks a lot of questions, but I find this movie doesn't leave me frustrated. I love the ending of this movie, even though I don't have any of my questions answered.
Oh no! This movie will not answer a single question that you have, and even the ending itself can be interpreted in many different ways.
Yeah,
you could interpret it. I mean, I've heard some people describing that the cube itself is actually a statement of life, as people actually are part of a society, and then they move through different stages or evolutions within their life, and at the very end, they die and they go to heaven. Well, not that I believe people go to heaven, but you know what I'm trying to say. I
totally get that.
That thing.
Yeah, I totally.
But then I've heard other people come up with all sorts of interesting explanations. Not so much to what's going on, but to what the story is trying to tell, like the inner monologue, if you like, of the story. So, but for me personally, I just find it a fascinating movie. I don't want to overanalyze it too much because I think then it takes away from what is a really interesting story.
I agree. And I mean, it's really hard to pull off a movie that makes you ask a million questions and gives you no answers and still have a satisfying ending. Like, you watch this movie and you don't feel like, what the fuck? Or maybe you do. Maybe that's why some people don't like it, but I don't feel that way when I watch this movie. I'm amazed by it. Also, another fun piece of trivia about the movie is that when the movie does end, there is actually a scene of outside of the cube, and the director cut that when he was like doing the final edit of the movie before he released it. He said that was the first thing he cut.
I'm glad.
Like, that's brilliant. Yeah, I agree. That's brilliant because it leaves it open to interpretation, which is one of the reasons I love this movie, because you really can interpret that movie in so many different ways because of this ending.
Oh, yes. And because I think in that would have then led us on to this idea, okay, it had to be built, which means it's either buried or it's in space or it's on the surface. Right. It had to be somewhere, which means that you can't really then work with that idea that everybody did a tiny little bit and the other person didn't know what the other person was doing, because you had to get people together in the end to assemble the bloody thing. You know what I mean? So in showing you what it looks like from the outside, I think, would have then raised the question, how did it get there? Where the whole thing about this movie, it's not about how it got there. It's about how do they try to figure out how to get out. And it would have taken away from the movie. So I really am glad that was cut.
Yeah, that was a good directorial decision to cut that out. I agree.
Yeah.
But yeah, amazing movie. And it's also not very huge on gore. Like, it hits you with like some gory stuff in the very beginning, just to let you know this is serious shit. This is not theoretical. This is, people are actually going to die if they step in the wrong room. But then after that, it really does become like this psychological survival, how do people, help each other or work against each other? Like, what do you do when you don't know why you're there and you don't know how to get out? And what does that do to you mentally? I mean, it's just so smartly written. I can't say it enough. It's amazing.
Yeah, no, it's really good. And another thing too, I'd say is if you are listening to this and you have seen The Cube, and you liked it, then I really suggest you go out and check out on Netflix a movie called The Circle, because it's a very similar movie, and I think that movie is brilliant, The Circle. So if you like this one...
I did not like that movie.
Didn't you like it?
That's me. That's me, though. I did not like that movie. I think, but I'll say, you know what, but it's not a bad movie. I think I simply don't like it because it just... people are scumbags in that movie. That's why I don't like that movie.
Well, that's the whole idea of The Circle, is that it's meant to be it's meant to be showing people for their true colors.
It's painful. It's painful. I think it's also because, like with Cube, you have a small selection of people, and the majority of them are good, and there's just a few bad. Whereas in that movie, it's like, oh my god, how many fucking people? 50, 60, 100, and like the majority of them are horrible people, and it just wow.
Well, a few of them are good. I actually had a Twitter conversation.
Very few. I think that's the odds. Like 2 out of 100 are good. I mean, it's so. Oh.
I mean, I've forgotten his name now, but the real evil character in that movie, he's meant to be the millionaire, the old millionaire, in his golf uniform, and remember how in a circle it breaks into two camps. You've got the millionaire who is controlling the survival people, the people who will kill everybody else in order to live. And then you've got the self-sacrifice people who are led by the soldier.
Yes.
And the soldier is trying to say, right, we have to make this work so it's the child who survives, not us, the adults, right?
Man,
and the battle that goes on between the millionaire who is about saving himself.
That movie is brutal. I think that's why I didn't like. I think it's not because actually it's not a bad movie. You're right. It's just the ugly side of humanity and what people will do for survival it's hard to watch. I mean, it's like a war movie, but on a sci-fi level. You know what I mean? It's just like
a lot of people
when it comes down to it, kill or be killed kind of thing. And it's just oh my god. So that's the Circle, people. I'm not talking about Cube. We're talking about the Circle now.
The Circle is it's a bit like, I mean, what it really is, it's a statement of humanity. It's a statement of society.
But it's an ugly one.
But what's interesting, a lot of people have referred to it as the weakest link with real death. You are the weakest link. Goodbye.
Description of it.
Yeah, I know.
But this is a really common theme in movies. I mean, it comes up again and again, like Battle Royale from Japan's another concept of, hey, put people, fight to the death, whoever's the last one alive wins. But that one, the cult classic. But then, like, even more recently, I'm not sure of the international release date, but here in the United States, we had a film come out called The Belko Experiment, and it's basically Battle Royale, but it's in the office. It's in your office building. They've found a way to, people can't leave their office building, and they have a voice come in over the intercom saying, we need 20 people dead within the next 5 minutes, or we're going to kill 40. And
yeah.
So yeah, it gets ugly, and it's that kind of movie too, where it's just like, kill or be killed. Last one alive wins.
Well, how do you feel about this, for instance, versus the Saw franchise?
I like Saw because it's torture porn. To me, that's all that movie is. It's torture porn. I go in expecting to see people get fucking killed and massacred, but honestly, oh my god, I think it was the fourth one. I couldn't even stomach it. It got me. I couldn't even watch it. I was like, wow, this is too much for me to watch. It got too gory for me. I think it was number 4. It was either number 3 or number 4, where they have the one where the one guy has his eyes sewn shut and the other guy has his mouth sewn shut.
Well, I have to admit, there are,
they have them both chained to this machine, and so neither can tell the other what the fuck's going on, and the only way they can survive is one kills the other, and it was just so gruesome. I couldn't handle it. I was like, that was just like the first 5 minutes of the movie. I was like, okay, I can't even watch this one. It's too much.
Did you know there's actually a porn version of Saw?
There's a what?
There's a porn version of Saw.
Oh, gross. Ew, why?
Yeah.
Somebody do that.
Yeah. I haven't seen it. I've no idea what it's like, but I do know that it does exist. Yeah.
I guess they fuck each other to death in that.
I think that's what it's. Yeah, I think that's.
I guess.
Yeah, I don't think they're actually, it's like cutting limbs off in that. I think it is actually the idea of fucking each other to death. Yeah. But
you want to play a game and then they pull out a bunch of butt beads.
God. Anyway, it's. I don't know which Saw it is. It might be Saw 3. Or Saw 4. I'm not too sure. The one when the woman has to hop into the bath of needles You know,
oh god!
When I say this, I mean medical needles. You know, like injection needles,
hypodermic needles,
syringes. That honestly, that was just
it's torture porn.
That was so hard to watch. Yeah.
Oh my god. Yeah. No. And they're reviving that franchise. They retired it 10 years ago, and that was it. And they're coming out with another one, and I'm like, oh, I have to get caught up, I guess.
Yeah. It's
haven't seen them all. I guess I gotta go watch them now. No, but
yeah.
if I can stomach them, I don't know. I don't know if I can watch them, to be honest. But The Cube, I love.
Yeah, no, I was just saying. I suppose the difference is that obviously in Saw, it's more about they have to find the most gruesome ways they can in order to escape or to survive. Where in this, it's not about that. It's about them using their intellect, their intelligence, trying to find their way out, if there is a way out, through this giant cube made up of, as you said, what is it, 1,700 other cubes, of which is a giant moving lock, by the way. So it doesn't stay still; it keeps moving all the time.
Yeah. Oh, it's so amazing! It's such an amazing movie.
Yeah,
it really is.
It's a great film, and I really recommend people watch this.
Yeah, it's suspenseful. It keeps you on the edge of your seat, and the ending, I love the ending. Like, I remember seeing it with my best friend at the time, and we were both just like blown away by the ending. It just was not at all what we expected, because honestly, yeah, because this movie came out in 1997, so we were really used to that formula of everybody survives, every movie has a happy ending. And let me just say, this movie doesn't follow that formula.
No, it does not.
So I think that was also refreshing at the time, to see a movie that wasn't, okay, everybody's fine, everybody survives, it's a happy ending. It was refreshing to see something different. Yeah. And I love that this movie came out of Canada, because I don't hear about a lot of Canadian cinema, and this was a cool one.
Oh, look, Canada makes some great stuff. I mean, we did it on a very early podcast. The Canadian movie Pontypool, which is about
that's a good one.
The zombie apocalypse, and that's a brilliant film. In fact, for me, I actually think it's one of the best zombie movies ever made.
It's really original.
It's such a different take on the zombie apocalypse, and it comes at it from a direction that no other film had ever thought of before. I mean, even at the huge, World War Z. I know I can't say World War Z. World War Z. Like even that, the huge, biggest budget ever zombie movie. But I reckon Pontypool is more interesting. The story itself,
it is,
is more interesting. And that was out of Canada. And
still nobody has done the angle that Pontypool does. So if you haven't seen Pontypool, I believe it's still on Netflix in the United States at least. So you can check it out on there. And yeah, definitely check that one out too. If you want to see a zombie film that comes at you from a different perspective, because at first you're going to watch it and be like, they said this was a zombie film. Where are the fucking zombies? Wait for it. You'll be surprised.
The suspense in that is really, really good. The way it keeps building it up. And it's, and the beauty too is that, look, I love it when smaller countries make great films, because we're so used to everything always coming out of either the United States or maybe Britain to a slightly lesser degree. But, the world produces so many great films, and, Canada's not only got so much great talent, but great technical people, and, and they do make really good films. And, just like Pontypool, in this case, Cube, it's a great little film. And, and so often we don't watch films because they're not American. It's such a shame. I know we've spoken about
that.
This before,
a shame.
Yeah.
Obviously that doesn't apply to you and me. We love films, international cinema. It doesn't have to be English speaking cinema for us to watch it. But I know a lot of people are biased in that, oh, I hate to read subtitles. I actually saw a fucking movie review the other day where I was thinking about looking at this movie online, and I was reading some of people's reviews of it. In the very first review, somebody had left 1 star, and the movie's from Germany, and they were like, I don't like having to read subtitles. I was like, you gave this movie 1 star because you have to read? I was like, That's ridiculous.
Fuck.
Just to watch the fucking movie. Don't rate it a 1 star.
No,
that's ridiculous.
My comment back to that person, fuck off, you arsehole. Well, I mean, what a
learn how to read.
Thing. I mean,
that's
Jesus.
Stupid.
That is just so stupid.
So of course it made me want to watch the movie even more.
Well, but the other thing too, I was just going to say, talking about bilingual, is that it, of course, in Cube, because it's Canadian, is that every now and again, when they swear or something like happens like that, they'll break into French.
Yes,
they don't, even though 99% of the dialogue in this movie is in English, but every now and again French words get slipped in.
They do.
Of course, which of course makes sense because Canada's a bilingual country. So, 2 official languages. So it's, I thought that was really kind of nice.
I love that scene. Well, I don't love that scene. It's actually sad, but I'll just say one person gets killed, and right before they get killed, and they know they're going to get killed because they stepped in the wrong room. He looks at the camera and says "shit" in French. I can't speak French, so I'm not going to.
He says "merde."
Say it. He says "shit" in French.
Yeah, which was just to everybody else. The word is "merde."
There you go. Yes,
that's the word.
Exactly what he says.
Merde is shit in French. Yeah, so.
Poor guy.
That's kind of amazing. I can't speak any language, but I can swear in a whole heap of them.
Hey, that's the way to start. If you're learning a language, learn the slang and the dirty words first, because you're going to hear them a lot.
Yes. Oh dear. But all right. So if we're going to rate Cube, because I suddenly just looked at the plot, Velvet, and this is the longest show we have ever done.
Every episode gets longer and longer. We can't.
I think we're about to hit 3 hours. So
okay, let's do this. All right. I think you already know from my rating system, out of a possible 5 Eric Roberts, I'm going to give Cube 5 cubes.
Excellent. Well, this is hard because I gave So Close 4. Do you know what I mean? But then again, remember, it's about my personal enjoyment from the film. It's not actually.
Exactly.
I mean, I do not rate the Eric Roberts scale. Is not about how magnificent the film is. It's about my. Or your personal enjoyment of the film. Okay,
right? Totally.
So in that case, I'm going to give Cube the same 4 out of 5.
Nice.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So, very good film.
Excellent.
Very good film. All right.
Shout outs.
Yes.
All right. Go ahead and follow us on our social media on Twitter and Instagram. You can find us at Cult Movie Show. I've been taking a humongously long break from social media, but go ahead and follow me on mine. So when I am active again, you'll already be in the know. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at OMG, it's Velvet. And then also my co-host, Martini Super Dry. That's how he likes it. So that's where you can find him on Twitter at Martini Super Dry.
Here's the I was about to say.
Okay.
I was going to say, here's the recipe, Velvet. And I've stolen this. Here's the recipe. It's vodka or gin, depending on your thing. And then you open the bottle of vermouth. You say vermouth and then put the top back on the bottle. That's how you make a dry martini.
All right, and it is stirred, not shaken.
Yes. This shaken bullshit. You stir a martini. You don't. Anyway. All right. No, sorry. All right.
Email us. Oh no, it's all good. So you can also email us. So if you have a film that you would like us to review, you have an independent film you'd like us to review, or a mini movie, as we like to call them, a short film, you can go ahead and email us, cultmovieshow@gmail.com, or you can also tweet us or private message us on Twitter. And that's it. I'll let you take it away, Warren.
Yes, I think that's basically it. So, thank you. This was podcast 43, the longest one yet. We'll try to bring the time down a little bit again next week. We just got very excited this show. So, but remember, it's a podcast. You can listen to it in 2 or 3 bites. You don't have to listen to it all at once.
Totally. Yeah.
So thanks for listening, guys. And we'll be back next week with podcast 44. And holy crap, we're going to be at 100 in no time. This is number 44 next week. My God.
Wow.
But anyway, so thanks for listening, and we'll be back again next week. So cheers, guys.
Cheers. Take care.